the new Alliance race.
New levels, new weapons.
Flying mounts, new professions, new races.
I'm looking for World PvP because I hate
Oh my god, I'm just so excited! So excited!
My name is Christian Fernandez and I come from Mexico just to get Burning Crusade.
My name is Jacob and I came here to get a piece of the collector's edition of Burning Crusade, and we came from Tijuana, Mexico.
Wendy Breezy here on the eve of a truly historic occasion. Tonight at midnight, millions of die-hard World of Warcraft fans across the globe will be the first to get their hands on the long-awaited expansion, World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade. I've been porting near and far to bring you the most up-to-date coverage of this unforgettable event. If you could only play one game for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Checkers.
I was kind of hoping you would say this game, but all right, moving on.
My dog loves World of Warcraft. Whenever we play it, she likes to roll up underneath the desk and fall asleep playing.
Well, I declare.
Oh! Kill them. How could you kill them? How?
Typically, I don't like gnomes.
Level 60 priest on Frostwolf. I'm here because I'm such a devoted fan.
Oh my gosh, it looks like you've been here forever. When did you get here?
6 a.m.
So do you play Horde or Alliance?
Horde! Horde!
Horde! Hey, hard for the win! Horde!
For the Horde!
For the Horde!
Alliance. Horde. Come on, man.
Ganker or Genki?
Oh, I gank noobs all day, every day. Everyone in line is a noob, and I gank all of them.
Well, I hope you have lots of fun. I don't think many other people will.
Ginker. Definitely.
If they were online, she'd see where they were, and then she'd go just gank them forever.
Because they killed me. No, they killed me first.
I have a girl in RL, everyone. I swear. She's not here, but she's real.
I'm just glad, you know, made it this far. I'm not going back now, you know.
As you can see by their responses, these fans are... Oh, hang on a second. I'm just received a slash tell from the news office. This is it. The moment we've all been waiting for has arrived, and the doors have begun opening. Let's go inside for a closer look.
I was so sad I never got a collector's edition. Now I got my own collector's edition. I'm so happy.
You guys take care of us, man. You guys really take care of us, man.
My goal is to get 61 before I sleep.
Okay, that's... Oh! Take that! How does that feel?
Sign off.
How do you like me now, huh? You want a piece of...
Sign off the show.
Oh, sorry. This is Wendy Breezy saying so long, and let the games begin. What did you just... Ow, ow, ow! Hello, feeling? You big meanie. Oh, I got a purple in my bag waiting for you. You gonna make me take it out? You want this mace? I'm gonna show you this mace. Here we go. You are not prepared.
Though tensions have risen between the Alliance and the Horde, the true enemy of the world lies unseen. Beyond the dark portal lies a universe of unending conflict, where the shattered realm of Outland has become the battlefield for a dark and murderous crusade. The Burning Legion has returned to claim vengeance, with a host of new terrifying warriors, such as the Wrathguard, Fell Reavers, the Shivan, and Warp Stalkers. While Outland's native denizens, the Ethereals, Nether Dragons, Naru, and the Grand rally countless others to war. Sparked by these events, abandoned sanctuaries on Azeroth now pulse with new life. Kargoz, the darkened tower of Medivh, bristles with arcane energy and the horrors unleashed by its former master. Its cursed halls now teem with the restless shades of the past. Yet, within the fabled caverns of time, the past has come full circle. Despite the efforts of the
And greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen of Azeroth. Welcome back to your weekly TBC waiting room. My name is Kargoz. You are here in the Dark Portal, Episode 4. I am joined today by my esteemed friends and colleagues. My co-host, first and foremost, Crix. How you doing, brother?
Hi. I'm doing good, man. Excited for this.
Me too.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
And hat. I'm slacking.
And the hat. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for noticing. All right. Good to see you. Good to hear from you, Crix. Next up, we got a new. Actually, we'll start with the old, then the new. Swifty. You're a good friend, man, and you were on one of the last episodes. But it's good to have you back, Swifty. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, guys, we have a new super hot fire guest this week. He's a galaxy brain, big brain, TBC. Wealth of knowledge, and he's also a streamer on Twitch, and he has big ambitions for the Burning Crusade. I would like to welcome to the channel Life is Moot. Life is Moot, how are you, brother?
Thank you, man. I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. Really stoked to be here. What's up, everyone?
Yo, a lot is up. Guys, everyone in the chat too. I know this is early days with the show. Thanks for being here and putting up with us for an hour or two. So we will move into the slides, if I can get my act together here. Give me 1 second. Let's do the icebreakers actually while I get the slides up. Okay. So Swifty, we didn't put you through this last time. I'm gonna put you through this time. I'm sorry, man. Sorry in advance. All right. Swifty, history with the game. We kind of talked about that a little bit. Just give the quick TLDR history with the game and then get into what class fantasy resonates with you the most.
Class fantasy? What are we talking now?
We're talking for me, it's like hunter, like a survivalist, trapper, you got beast, you have a pet, beast synergy, which one does it for you out of all the classes?
I'm what they call a beast enthusiast in the I love druids. I love everything about druids, and I love them in classic vanilla, and obviously they just get so much better in TBC. Back in the retail TBC, I played a druid, a mage, and a priest. I was pretty much only PvPing on the druid and the mage, and pretty much only PvEing on the priest. So I got to gladiator seasons 1 through 4 on the mage, and seasons 2 through 4 on the druid. So I have a lot of arena experience. I would pretty much log in and just play arena all day long. I mean, I was 15. So
you were like Navik.
But I just played arena all day, and I would sit in the ground and do that. And then, when it was raid time, I would hop on my priest and heal. So I have some experience there. I would occasionally throw in a raid as a druid or a mage, but not really. I plan on sticking with Feral when we go back into TBC from Classic WoW, which is what I've been playing in, and gonna do the cat DPS and raids, maybe off tank too. They probably want me for that because cats aren't as loved, but I'm here to represent for the cat. I think if you play it right, you can pump really, really hard and put some serious numbers down and make people respect it a lot more, while you still have the utility of giving 5%, melee and ranged crit to your group. And so that's my experience, and I'm looking forward. The class fantasy is definitely the druid. You can kind of do everything. When I think about re-rolling and playing another class, I don't know why you would play something else, because a druid can do everything, like melee DPS, ranged DPS, caster DPS, tank, heal. They can do everything. Arena. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Let's get into what race, zone, snack favorites, and favorite version of WoW.
TBC. I know that was the last thing you said, but it was freshest in my mind. TBC is definitely what I always, when they announced classic vanilla, to me that was just me thinking about TBC, because that was when the game was really for me the best. I thought in vanilla it was good, but they were missing a lot of things, right? It clearly felt like they finished it, or they released it before it was totally finished. And Wrath of the Lich King is where, for my opinion at least, it started to go downhill. So TBC, favorite class, race Tauren, because you only get 2 to choose from, and Tauren's better than Night Elf. Druid. Although if we're talking any race, I guess Undead is pretty godly. And snack. Man, it's really tough. That's the toughest question you've asked.
I know, dude. Hard-hitting questions here.
Really hard-hitting questions. I guess some sort of cheese puff.
Not bad.
Plastic. Yeah, thanks.
Not bad. Okay, very last one. Then we'll move on to Moot. What year would you visit if you could visit any year, past, present, or future?
Sorry, wait, can you repeat that?
What year would you visit, past, present, or future? If you could visit any year, go back in time machine, Back to the Future.
Wow, I guess, I'd be scared to go into the future, or at least the past would be kind of fun. So what year in the past, though?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe something like medieval could be interesting for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm playing
answer.
WoW, right?
All right, Life is Moot, brother. You are up. You have to make it through the cringe as well. I want to quickly shill on Life is Moot's behalf, first of all. Looking at his Twitch right here. Rank 14, Classic, March 3rd. The 4th Horde Warrior on Herod server. Shout out to Herod. Probably some Herod people playing right now. Server first MC, Oni, AQ40, ZG, Lights Hope, 60 Orc Warrior, Northdale, 60 Dwarf Warrior, 60 Undead Mage, 70 Gnome Warrior on Karazhan server, 70 Gnome Mage as well. And Life is Moot, yo, it's really good to have you here, man. Could you please tell us a brief history of the game for you?
Yeah, that's right, man. I play a lot of WoW. I've played on, many servers before Classic. When Classic was finally announced, I was super, super excited. Felt like it was my chance to kind of get in on something that I had a lot of experience in. And yeah, I wanted to give it my all, so I went rank 14. And that was the dumbest decision in my life, just because of how much time it took. But also, I don't know. I mean, it might work out for me. I mean, here I am. I got the start of my stream off that, so in a lot of ways it was worth it. But it really was so much work. But yeah, I'm just a grinder, man. I love World of Warcraft. I'm just a grinder. I love the game.
Hell yeah, Shrifty loves grinder. All right. Next up is which class fantasy resonates with you the most, and also which race Life is Moot. Class fantasy, again, pertaining to kind of like the lore, RP, flavor, playstyle. You choose any of the above. Anything come to mind?
Of course, dude. That is the easiest question possible. Warrior, for sure, is the most fun in terms of mechanics. In terms of class fantasy, you just have a gigantic two-hander, just destroying people. Like, Rage is one of the most fun resources in WoW for me. Like, mana is kind of just a static bar that depletes. Rage is like dynamic. The damage you do, the damage you take affects your rage. So yeah, Warrior for sure will always be my class. And I'm here to shill Warriors and melee DPS and TBC, of course.
Oh yeah, brother. Okay, favorite zone, snack, version of WoW, and what year you would visit. You could visit any year.
Alright, my favorite snack would have to be chicken wings, I think. Just so good.
Which kind? Favorite sauce? Dry rub?
Anything spicy, dude. The spicier the better.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Favorite zone? I'm gonna say a classic zone, even though this is a TBC show. I think I'm gonna say either Desolace or Fellwood.
I like Fellwood.
Just because of kind of like, I don't know, the demonic energies going on there. I think Desolace is really interesting. Yeah, and Fellwood is all about like griefing people's buffs and PvP.
Yeah.
So.
All right, that's a good answer, man. I like how you have a classic answer even we're on a TBC show. Shout out to Classic. That's my one true love as well. I'm not sure it is. Favorite version of WoW, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, favorite version of WoW? That's really tough. I think my favorite version of WoW would be TBC, but without flying mounts, because I really do like world PvP, but we'll probably never get to play that, unfortunately. But, yeah.
I mean, Sorry.
All good. And I think last one is what year would you visit if you could, and why?
I think I would have to choose some time in the future where, I don't know, like space travel would be really cool to see.
That's a good answer. All right, well, thank you for making it through our cringe. Hopefully, you guys got to know him a little bit better. Just warming us up here, guys, before we get into the juicy stuff. So, gonna be honest with you, chat. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I'm known for some scuffed streams. My browser has frozen, so I'm unable to move into the agenda slide. So I'm gonna have to read it for you right here. Guest introductions, we did that. Next up on the agenda is news. So there is a little morsel of TBC news to talk about at Crix, man. Oh, actually, before we get into news though, Crix, something happened to you, Crix? What happened to you?
God. Can you guys hear me still?
Yes, yeah, loud and clear, man.
I made a bet with stream pretty much, and I lost that bet by dying, and I had to cut my hair into the shape of an avatar, The Last Airbender.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean?
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. All of its glory. And what was this bet, Crix? Like, what? Give us a little more deets on this. You on mute? You on mute, brother? On mute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yeah.
It's the fabulous hardcore challenge that everybody loves, man. This hyped up the thing that you got going, and I did some Wheel of Misfortune if I die.
Who did it
and
for
my
you?
mic is loud. One
Did
second.
you like go to a barber and ask, I want the avatar arrow, or how did that go down?
One second, I'm turning my mic down. No, I just had my wife do it. Or not my wife, had my wife's friend do it on stream.
It's pretty clean. Pretty clean. It's very ergonomic.
Yeah, it sucks.
Dude, honestly, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does. It does. You pull it off, man. You pull it off. Anyway, let's get into this TBC news, Crix. So, what you told me about this news first and foremost, and then we can discuss it a little bit as a group. What happened?
To be honest, I didn't read it. I read it one time and just went to talk to you about it. We never talked about it. But they put the server up. Can you pull it up on the slide?
I wish I could. If I wasn't a scuff streamer, then
Go
maybe
to the
that would
web.
be possible.
Yeah, let's go to the web.
So basically, I don't know if it started with Wowhead or if it was somewhere further up the chain of press release command, but basically Wowhead had a tweet. The tweet said, Blizzard has re-added the classic beta client to the Battle.net app catalog. It is marked as deprecated, but this could mean that Blizzard is preparing for a possible hashtag classic WoW version of the Burning Crusade, hashtag Warcraft, and they have a little Burning Crusade logo there as well. It's giving me kind of flashbacks. Was anybody there, a year ago or whatever it was, a year and a half ago, when they were talking about deprecated additions to the client for Classic? Remember that, guys? And it came true, and it did become a Classic beta. It did become a demo, or it was a beta back then. It's kind of the same thing, man.
Isn't this all but confirmed, though? I've heard through lots of very inner sources that TBC Classic is all but confirmed.
Yeah,
or do you just mean the beta?
Yeah, I mean, it is all but confirmed, but again, it's not the thing that they still haven't officially put it out, with the
right.
They got to be waiting for BlizzCon Online to do it and make a big thing about it. But there's a historical precedent here I'd like to point out. I know some of you in the chat were here a year and a half ago when it was the same story. So I was learning about what does a deprecated addition to the catalog even mean. I had to learn all about that because it was the first time I've even heard of that type of thing, and it came true. So guys, it's good news, man. It's good news. I think put your tinfoil hats on. It looks like all things are looking green. Do you have any perspective on that, Life? You go by Moot or Life? Sorry.
Yeah, sounds good to me. You can call me Moot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for me, TBC was all but confirmed when Blizzard started, releasing the poll about what we think should be implemented and how we think, servers should be implemented and stuff. At that point, it was all but confirmed to me, and because of the success of Classic. So yeah, we're just waiting for more news other than that, beta or release date or whatever.
Gotcha. Swifty, are you excited?
I'm so excited. I just need it to happen, now.
Yeah. So that's good news, guys. I think it's the day again. We should professional content creator, by the way, but I don't think they have a hard date for BlizzCon Online yet. Maybe they do. Anybody in the chat?
Beginning of February.
Yeah, that's what I heard. February, but no hard date, right?
Yeah, they haven't announced it.
Yeah. But likely, I guess if we had to make our predictions, I think they're going to announce it officially. They're going to have some big, Chromie's going to be there. They're going to have Illidan there. You were not prepared, and then bam, we'll see if we get a beta right after that or some kind of demo or something. So it's coming, guys. It's coming. Get ready. It's already almost November, man. It's crazy.
I've been planning out the leveling route. Dungeons.
Oh yeah, we can get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly aren't going to want to, like, take away from any of the hype of Shadowlands, so they'll probably do what they usually do and wait for, like, the content drought of Shadowlands, and then hit us with TBC.
Smart.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's that juicy little morsel, something we can sink our teeth into, right, fellas? I mean, we've been talking about TBC, and, you know, we're hungry for any little shred, any scrap of, you know, legitimacy out there. So we got something to latch onto. Fingers crossed. Anyway, okay. So, time to go into some of the meat and potatoes of this, guys. Can we get some hype in the chat for this? The question of the hour, the question of the episode, are Melee just bad in TBC? Do Melee suck in TBC? You know, we can just open it up and try to clear your mind. Gentlemen, this is a big, you know, question to try to answer. But do you have any initial thoughts? Let's start with you, Moot.
Yep, Melee sucks.
There it is. Episode over, guys. See you next week.
That's all we need to say. No, I mean, obviously, I think that is part of the truth, but I do not think that is the entire truth. Like, in a vacuum, Melee does suck. I mean, if you just are interested in topping meteors with the least amount of effort possible, in the most amount of fights, then no, you should not play Melee. You should definitely play Warlock or Hunter. You're gonna have a much easier time. But if you're interested in playing a Melee class for some reason, whether that be you like the rotation, you just really enjoy the class, I do believe that if you put a lot of effort into the class, into learning what you can do on certain fights, how to use your abilities, basically always using CDs as efficiently as you can, always having the best gear, always having the best consumes, Melee can be very, very good.
All right.
I would say from my perspective, I'm not a Melee, I'm a caster, but I'm in relatively good guilds with everybody min-maxing. Like with the whole raid, everybody in the raid is min-maxing. Then the Melee seems kind of flux. Like it seems like T4, they're all right. They're not keeping up with like the, you know, hunters and shit, but they're not bottom. And then T5, they just go very bad. Whether they're not scaling, whether it's the bosses mechanics, and then T6 they pick way back up and they do excellent. So it's like one of those things where you can pay off. If you're a Melee and you're patient, it'll pay off in the end. But yeah, I don't see you topping meters. I mean, T4, I remember seeing some ret and enhance can pump a little bit with the gear previous T4, and then it did just fall off drastically, and I didn't see anything until the end of Hyjal, beginning of Black Temple.
Gotcha. Swifty, how do you feel about the matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, asking if they suck, you know, it's an RPG, right? So you got to define your goals. And, oh, well, the camera's just turned off.
Sorry, we're good.
No, you're good. You got to figure out what your goals are, right? And so if your goals are, like Moot said, to top the most number of fights on meters, then, like, yeah, they're not as ideal for that. But every Melee serves, like, a really good function in this game, right? So if you care at all about PvP, rogues are incredible. I mean, they probably have, like, the most number of high-end viable team comps. They're super high skill ceiling. Like, you can be good at a rogue, and the difference between, like, a good rogue and a great rogue is still night and day, right? Like, there's so much room for really incredible plays that rogues can do when it comes to PvPing. And they're really high skill cap, and they're really challenging and fun and versatile. So, yeah, I think, you know, there's still a lot of room for that. Whereas something like a warrior or a feral druid or enhancement shaman, they can all, like, fulfill multiple roles. Like, right? Like, a warrior and a druid can tank, and enhancement shaman is still providing raid utility. So, like, yeah, if your goal is to just be the #1 DPS, like, maybe you're not as happy in that. But if you, like, want to still you can still crush it, right? You can still come prepared, do really well, provide, like, raid utility, and then, like, go and play some PvP. So it just depends what you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, you know, it depends how hardcore your guild is and what your goals of yourself and your guild are. Like Crix is saying, he plays in very hardcore guilds where everyone's min-maxing. There's a good chance that not everyone is going to be playing in super hardcore guilds. But, you know, if you want to play warrior or rogue or enhance or whatever it is, and you're simply just putting in more effort than other people in your guild are willing to, you will be able to out-DPS them.
That's a really good point. And this, so kind of what the same sort of thing applies to TBC as it does with Classic, and this makes sense. At least in Classic, people say you have to play a warrior, you have to get every world buff. This is the absolute expectation. If you're not doing that, you're trolling or something. As someone like myself, I never really raided in like an extremely hardcore raid environment. I was always kind of in that semi-hardcore range. And for me, like regardless of what class you played, you wouldn't have to get all world buffs or whatever. But if you were just have some pretty good game sense and you are knowing when to pop certain coolies and have a decent head on your shoulders, like you can perform and top DPS. I was top DPSing as a warlock, MC, BWL, so on and so forth. So it might be that type of thing you're saying in TBC. Like if you're a really good player and you're not in the most hardcore guild, you can absolutely shine as melee possibly.
Yeah, especially if you're min-maxing.
Yeah.
And they do have good buffs you'd want, right? Like you still want a warrior in your hunter group for battle shout and stuff, so you can't like totally neglect it either.
True.
Yeah, the one arms in there.
Even more so than that too, though. They actually have some like mandatory raid utility too, like at least Arms Warrior does, right? I don't know if Rogue does, but Arms Warrior has the 4%, right? So
I mean, I wouldn't say mandatory, but you can use the excuse that you need to bring a Rogue or a melee for that one. For that, I would say Enhance has a mandatory buff, but I don't say that 4% physical damage isn't mandatory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends.
It's not gonna be that hard either. I don't think it's gonna be like absolutely need arms.
Well, it's raid wide though, whereas the Enhance I think is only group wide. Am I wrong on that?
You're right about that, yeah, because it's a debuff that goes on the buff. Blood Frenzy, 4% increased melee damage. But I mean, yeah, it depends on your raid comp, and it depends how much you're gonna value that. Like how many hunters are you running? How much do you value the 4% damage maybe for your tank, for threat? And also, like, how much damage is the Arms Warrior going to be able to do on this fight? Like, there are some fights where, for progression, the Arms Warrior is pretty much just going to be dead weight.
Okay. So let's try to take a few steps back. It's a hard topic to answer, right? Because there's so many things to consider. But what specializations immediately come to mind when you think of melee in TBC? What are you considering as melee? I know it seems basic, but let's all get on the same page together. Just shout them out.
Arms, Enhance, Ret, Rogue, Feral.
Yeah, that.
Did we miss
Ret Pally too?
Yeah.
Right.
So, sorry, forgot.
So Retribution Pally. We're not considering Prot as a melee, right? That's a meme.
No, I mean tanks are right.
Yeah, exactly. Feral Druid. Are you considered enhanced melee? I guess, right? Enhanced melee.
And the Fury as well, but Fury doesn't bring anything except for just damage. Just minor damage at that. In the beginning.
So Fury and Arms, you considering both specs viable, melee DPS?
I would say Arms more because they bring the buff. I'm not bringing a Fury. If I'm min-maxing to
a Fury?
When TBC Classic comes out, I'm not bringing a Fury.
What do you have against furries, Crix?
All right,
Fury Warrior. I'm not bringing a Fury Warrior. I'll bring an Arms Warrior for obvious reasons, but I'm not going to bring a Fury Warrior.
And is it just because the Fury doesn't have that 4% utility? Is the damage?
Yeah, they don't have the buff. Both Arms and Fury are minute damage in T4, so why bring the one that doesn't have the buff versus the one that does have the buff?
Okay.
Is there
any thoughts on this?
Similar?
Maybe it depends on different tiers too. That's another question we'll answer in a second here. How melee do throughout the life cycle of a TBC super bid. Anyway, Boots, sorry, what were you saying? Fury versus Arms.
Right, yeah. I mean, people typically say that, tier 4 and tier 5 at the beginning, melee is a lot weaker, and this definitely makes sense because warriors especially, I think, scale with gear stronger than any other class, and also expertise, which we're going to get more in-depth on later. At the start of content, expertise is pretty difficult to get, and a lot of the items that have expertise aren't even really worth using all the time. But later on, when you start getting, into Black Temple and Hyjal and whatever, the gear has a lot more expertise and other really good stats, and I think that's a big reason why, warriors scale and start doing better. But yeah, Fury, I mean, I'm the warrior guy. I like warrior. I do think that Fury can work, especially because they can transition to off-tanking pretty easily while staying in that spec. It just has to be, a really good player, like really min-maxing. And I do think in classic TBC, we're going to see a lot more people playing Fury Warrior because I mean, they're just stubborn and they want to play Fury. I mean, that's not going to be in a hardcore guild necessarily, but I do think just the sheer amount of warriors from Classic will carry over to TBC, and you will see more Fury warriors in Classic TBC raids.
Yeah, there's a few things to unpack here, right? So, is Warrior in Classic, right? There's a question for the chat too. Is Warriors the most popular class right now? Like, is it the highest percentage? I figure, I feel like it was at one point. I don't know if it still is, if things have shifted, or if they're still doing that data. But there's a ton of people playing Warriors. I think some of the people that have that PvE mindset, they love raiding. They are passionate about optimization. They're passionate about pushing their raid to the limit, speed running. There's a lot of warriors, a lot of melee in Classic. So moving into TBC, you're going to have this huge amount of people playing warriors and rogues, and maybe not so many spaces. But the other angle, the other aspect to unpack is that TBC Classic might be significantly easier than on the private servers. I mean, it almost certainly will be. And the other thing to think about is maybe private servers don't have it all figured out. Is there any possibility with that too? Maybe, what we know about Classic and everybody playing these melee classes and knowing so much about itemization now might actually shift the meta as well. A lot to unpack there, but we can chip away at it. Anybody have some initial points?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hit thing that was discovered with Warriors was not discovered on a private server. That was discovered with Classic. So
the heroic strike queuing?
The heroic strike queuing, exactly, where you could have heroic strike ready to go for your main hand, and your offhand got all the benefits of the hit, because normally there was a large penalty on your offhand, right? And as long as you had heroic strike queued, it just skipped that penalty. So if you were low on rage, you could queue it up, cancel, and re-queue. Whereas if you had enough rage, you could basically just spam heroic strike to always be getting that maxed out offhand hit. And that took warriors from, which people already knew they were the number one, to ridiculous heights where they were hitting the numbers we only saw in AQ40 and Nax all the way in Molten Core. And then combined with the fact that you can pull rage, with that you've got Cleave and Whirlwind for packs, and they were just kings of speed clearing and single target. I think that'll translate though to answer in TBC. I think there will be new discoveries. I think people will figure out how to pump. I still think these min-maxy strategies of pooling rage and maybe larger pulls than we did in TBC could benefit things like melee DPS, which don't have mana. But also have built-in ways to do lots of AoE damage. I don't know. We'll see. I think Warriors will do better than initially thought, and maybe Rogues too. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think they'll do better in the aspect that the fights are shorter, but I think they're still going to be behind everywhere else. I don't think the meta is going to change with melee coming into Classic TBC.
And why is that? And I have a thought on that as well. But why? Try to delve down to why does melee get air quotes shut down in TBC, or why are they significantly impacted in a negative way?
Oh, I don't know. I don't play melee. I just know that they don't seem to be doing that good. I don't know enough about melee to know why they're not good. I just from what I ask around, you know what I mean? That's why they seem to do fine in T4. And then they kind of just fall off, man. I don't know enough about melee. I just don't think that they're going to be... What would change in the meta that's going to make them want to be in the meta?
I'll chime in with one obvious thing: world buffs and lack thereof, right? There's really not... I guess people on the TBC private servers, they're finding ways to bring world buffs in. I don't know. I've been hearing rumblings of that, but for the most part, melee scale ridiculously well with some of these world buffs that you pick up in Classic, and in TBC they're not going to have access to some of those big ticket world buffs, correct? So there's that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I didn't even think of that.
How do you feel about all this, Mood? There's a lot here, man. There's information overload.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good question, and we're not really sure about world buffs in TBC at this point. I mean, I really hope that they're not in TBC. I don't think that they should be really a part of the TBC experience, even though I do play melee, and they help melee a lot. But I think it's simply, the mechanics in TBC are a lot more intensive than mechanics in Classic. A lot of the time, you straight up just can't hit the boss if you're a melee DPS. I mean, there are so many fights where that happens, right? Like Lurker, Leothras, Lady Vash, everyone is moving around. There are so many moving parts. I mean, on certain servers right now, there literally is 360 cleave mechanics, which I really don't understand what the point of having a 360 cleave mechanic in the game is. It's literally just there to screw melee over. So I mean, just moving from Classic to TBC, there are a lot of reasons why Melee gets a lot worse. I mean, you simply can't hit the boss, and you have to play around mechanics that range DPS simply do not have to even deal with a lot of the time.
I think world buffs stopped working, or at least like the Ani head stopped working on players above a certain level in TBC, so it wasn't a thing.
That might
There
be
was
it.
still Dark Moon Fair, but
Yeah, because Lord Spaghetti is saying that world buffs are still available till Black Temple, but I think they nerfed
I
them,
think
right?
he's mistaken. No, I think they don't work on high levels. Like,
Oh,
they're
is that
totally
available, but you can't be above level 63.
Gotcha. There it is. There it is. I mean, guys, good news or bad news? No world buffs and rating. How do you guys feel about that? Probably overwhelmingly, people feel very excited about that. There's other cool things too, like flasks are way cheaper, as you guys are saying, and all that type of stuff. So
honestly, you're better off not even using a flask. Like most of the time, you're better off using the double elixir combo. The flask just saves money if you're dying a lot, but if you're not, then it's like you don't even need flasks, so it's way cheaper. You don't have to raid log world buffs. It's so much better.
Gotcha. Okay, what else do we chip away at? Melee just bad. So short answer, yes. Long answer, no. Maybe we can focus for a second on things that you can look forward to if you do want to play a Melee in TBC. Like I've heard, for example, Arms Warriors, for some reason, people love the playstyle of Arms Warrior in TBC. Like they make compilations of it. It's almost like this underdog spec that people really seem to latch onto for some unknown reason. I've never really rated as an Arms Warrior or anything like that. Maybe if you have any insight into that, Moot or Swifty, are you excited to play Feral? What is there to look forward to if you're a Melee?
You go ahead, Moot.
All right, yeah. I can say Arms Warrior I play on Karazhan right now, and it is very, very fun. I mean, you get a gigantic two-hander, and you're just absolutely blasting. Sometimes it's not fun when you're just dead on the floor, and you look at all the ranged DPS that don't even have to dodge the mechanic that you have to play around. But there's a lot of things about it that are just very, very satisfying. As Arms, you play, two-hand sword spec, so you have sword specialization and Wind Fury. So a lot of the times, if you get a gigantic proc, it honestly just feels like you're popping off. The rotation is actually really fun and, takes a lot of skill, and it's a decent amount of buttons to press, in my opinion. That's kind of why I gravitate towards Melee classes. That's one of the reasons, in TBC, rotationally, I feel that the Warrior rotation is one of the most fun rotations in the game. And, on certain servers right now, Hunters can actually play with a macro that essentially plays the game for them by pressing one button. And that just doesn't seem fun to me. Even if you're topping meters, that just does not seem fun to me.
I think there's a good point. Sorry, Swifty, I don't mean to cut you off, but one thing I will say is so I played a Warlock going into Classic, and there is something about being the underdog versus being the one that's expected to pump or the one who's expected to win or whatever. And in a Warlock in PvP, you'd be expected to win every altercation or whatever. I do really see a lot of appeal in playing an underdog kind of class, and maybe Melee could. There could be something there with Melee, right? When people don't expect you to be at the top of the meters, and you're at the top of the meters or close to it, that feels amazing, right? So there's that. But what is the rotation of Arms, generally speaking? I know there's probably a lot of nuance to it, but
smash your face, Brody.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, I totally agree with that, though, Kargoz, what you just said. If people don't expect to get beaten in DPS by a warrior, and then you do end up beating them, it makes it that much sweeter. I mean, it doesn't happen that often, and yeah, the Arms Warrior rotation, yeah, for sure, we can talk about that. Basically, Slam, there is a talent in the Fury tree called Improve Slam. With 2 points, it reduces the casting time of Slam by 1 second, and Slam is basically your bread and butter. The basic rotation is auto attack, and right as soon as your auto attack is over, right after your auto attack lands, you're gonna slam, and then you're gonna Mortal Strike, you're gonna auto attack again, slam, and then you're gonna whirlwind, and then your Mortal Strike will be off cooldown again.
Slam, ability not used ever in Classic. That's pretty cool. And Yo, interestingly, there's no sweeping strikes too, huh? In arms, I realized. Yeah, that's a Fury thing. So.
Yep, sweeping strikes is in the Fury tree, but you do get sweeping strikes as PvE arm spec. So, it also feels incredible just, cleaving 2 mobs, putting up sweeping strikes, slam. Your AoE rotation is going to be pretty similar, except you're going to prioritize Whirlwind over Mortal Strike in that case. Slam is really good with sweeping strikes, though. It'll hit 2 targets. And yeah, it's just a really satisfying rotation that honestly does take a lot of skill just with the timing window of when you slam, because you want to slam as close as you can to after when your auto attack lands, right? So I mean, you can get closer and closer and more precise with that.
Yo, I would imagine that kind of makes it hard on moving fights, right? Don't you have to cast slam? It's like 2 seconds. Like if you have to move around, does that really screw you over as a arms warrior?
Yeah, it does, but the casting time is pretty short, so
I think the movement
you just have to play around it.
No, I think the movement in fights is one of the reasons why melee is worse, right? Because melee wants to be behind the target to get around parrying, and if the target moves a lot, or if the area is not safe to stand in, then melee is going to have to move around and lose DPS, whereas hunters and warlocks mages can just sit there. So I think that's actually one of the big reasons why melee is behind in terms of numbers. It's not like their class just can't pump it, it's the fights are a lot more challenging for melee. And that's another reason why expertise is so good, because that lowers the enemy's chance to parry and dodge. So, for tanks it's awesome because they're always in front of the target. But for melee DPS, getting rid of the dodge alone is a huge advantage, but with enough expertise, you don't even always have to stand behind. But, yeah. Let me know when you're ready for druid stuff, though, for Feral.
Yeah, we're going to be getting into the two. Guys, this is also, like, an opportunity just to ask whatever you want to ask to, like a warrior enthusiast, a druid enthusiast, a warlock enthusiast, guys. So what the hell? Like, it's not that serious. If you have really good questions or something, that you're dying to know about TBC, either tweet at us or you can throw them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them. Here's a question. Let's say somebody is really into raiding. That's their thing, and right now they're playing a warrior. Would you advise them? Would you advise them to re-roll, or or what are your thoughts on that? Like, is it? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm telling them reroll.
What are their goals, Kargoz? Like, what do they want to do?
So they're okay. This is This is Joe Schmo, and he loves theory crafting, optimization, itemization. Speed running.
Speed running raids, or does Joe
speed running raids?
Heroics.
Yeah, speed running raids. Just loves it. Like raid night, best night.
Does he like to PvP, Mr. Schmo?
No. He's a raider, man. He's a hardcore raider. Raid 4 or 5 times a week.
And what
class? And he's a warrior?
And he's playing a warrior or a rogue, or like a melee. He's playing. He's
Joe Schmo.
Joe
won't
Schmo.
pull as DPS as Jane Schmo on the fucking mage will or the warlock will. That's the issue. I don't care how min-maxy you are. That's cool. I like it, bud. But I already have my 1 or 2 warriors. You need to reroll to something that we need. It's gonna triple the damage.
Yeah.
The thing is, we get it. It sucks that you like melee. We get it. It sucks, but like, there's classes that triple your damage. So like, hey, sorry about it.
Damn, dude. But okay.
Yeah,
I'm also a
fair.
scumbag. I'm a min max. I'm one of those weird meta dudes. So
you're keeping it real though, Crix. You're keeping it 100. It's better than you just lying here, dude. That's you're a hardcore raider. You do this shit. You live this shit, man. Like that's. I love how you just go for it and you just say it, man. Sorry, what were you saying, Moot? Sorry.
No, I mean, I totally agree with what you guys are saying and what Crix is saying. And, I think there's 2 sides to the story. Like, the question is, you play warrior now, should you reroll? It really depends what you're looking for and what you're going for. If you always want to see yourself on the top of the meter with kind of minimal effort, you want to guarantee that spot on pretty much every fight, yes, you should definitely reroll. Like, do you not have a spot kind of already lined up for yourself in a guild? Yes, you probably should reroll, but I think you also have to ask yourself, how much do you like playing your current class? Like, is that the class that you really want to play? Like, are you willing to make it work? Are you willing to put in the extra effort? Are you willing to, you know, be benched and maybe guild hop a few times to try to get a spot? Like, I really think there's two sides to the argument here, you know, like, and it all depends on the person. Like, if you played Classic and the only reason you played Warrior is so you could be top DPS, then just drop the class and, you know, pick the next class
The
and
next
the next
flavor.
With
The next flavor of
there
the X
is
pack.
70% of the fucking Warriors in Classic.
Yeah, probably a lot of people will do that, and you know, I can't blame them. I cannot blame someone for picking the best class in an expansion. Like, if that's what you want, by all means go for it. But you know, if you really love Warrior, or you really love Rogue, or for some reason you really love Enhancement Shaman, or, you know, Feral Druid, like, I would go, like, I would stick with your class personally, because you, like, if you know that you are the best at your class and you're willing to put in the extra effort, I do think you'll outperform someone who isn't doing that, even if they are playing a better class.
I mean, as far as the other ones go, the Enhance and the Feral, like, you can justify a raid spot just because of utility you bring, right? Like, Shamans are amazing. You got Bloodlust, you got all your totems for your group, you got damage. So as long as you still have to put the work in as Enhanced to, like, still do decent damage, but you don't need to win because you're providing so much damage to your group that as long as you do okay damage, like, you're more than useful. Ferals, like, you don't provide as much damage as an Enhancement Shaman would, but 5% crit, melee and ranged, your hunters are going to love that. They're going to want you in your group. And when you need an extra tank, the Feral spec is almost identical for the DPS and the tanking. It's very slightly different, but close enough that you can do both roles with one spec excellently. Even a lot of the gear is shared, so you can either swap a few pieces around, but you can pump. Like, no other tank in TBC is also just going to pump damage like a Feral. So, you know, huge advantage. You can tank groups when, you know, people always want tanks. So there's a lot of reasons to play Druid.
Well, how did Feral do? Like, yeah, that's great point, Swifty. Great point. It's kind of like the same case in Classic too. Like, there's also just a gear thing. You distribute gear a little bit easier if you have a Druid there too, right? And the Druid can fill so many roles, and I hear they do great, you know, like pretty solid damage. I mean,
there's a huge power spike at 2-piece tier 4, which is, you know, something you get really early. 2-piece tier 4, you can get that, you know, out of Karzan or Gruul or whatever. Yeah, and that's a huge spike. So they actually, I think their damage is good. I think it's really just limited by how much you have to move in a fight, because Feral Druids are like dagger rogues in the sense that all of their damage comes from behind, right? They have to shred spam, and that you have to be behind the target. So in any fight where you can't be behind the target for even a little bit of time, every time you can't be behind the target, you're going to drop off even more than normal. So that's a huge penalty on fights like that. But fights where you can sit behind the target, you can pump. And as far as fun goes, they have the most, bar none, complicated rotation. So if that appeals to you, I could tell you why. But
is it power shifting still? Is it more of the same?
Oh, it's power shifting to the extreme. So for those that you don't know what power shifting is, essentially, as a druid, you have a talent that gives you 40 energy every time you go into cat form. Then you can and should wear a helmet called Wolf's Head Helmet. That gives you another 20 energy when you shift into cat form. So you get 60 energy when you shift into cat form. Then you'll use some sort of add-on to track your energy bar ticker. If you played a rogue or a druid, you're probably already doing this. And you shift into cat form right before the energy tick. So you have 80 energy. Then you shred once. So that puts you on global cooldown. But global cooldowns in cat form are only a second instead of a second and a half. But anyway, you shred once. You wait for the energy tick. You shred again. You're on global cooldown. You shift out and back into cat form right before the next energy tick. So that way you go back to 80. And this is your standard rotation in vanilla. In TBC, this is amped up because now you also have Mangle. Mangle applies 12 seconds where your shreds do more damage. And it also makes everyone that does bleeding damage in the raid do more. So that also can help your melee teams like warriors and rogues. Except there's also this special extra crack version of it where there's a bug in TBC. And this should exist even in the new classic TBC. Kind of like the warrior heroic strike hit where it's like they just said it's not a bug even though we all know it was. Where if you, so swipe, which is, or not swipe, I'm sorry, rip, the bleeding finisher that cats will do, okay? This does 30% more damage if Mangle is applied. But if you do it right at the end of the Mangle duration, it actually has a travel time. So even though this is a melee attack, it's not actually instant. You literally have to swipe right in the last framing, the batching window, okay, of the mangle falling off. So that way, when you cast the rip, the mangle's still there, but when it hits, the mangle is gone, okay? This will give the rip the extra 30% damage. Then you mangle again right after, and it stacks that and gives another 30%. And it's additive, and it does way more damage. So you literally have to like batch your combos while power shifting. Now you get the 2-piece tier 4, right? Which gives you a chance on hit to get 20 energy back. So this totally messes with when you shift.
Or you can spam your 1-button macro as Hunter, yo. It sounds like the good life.
It's hard as fuck if to do it optimally. And even if you're a pro, you're probably
man?
not going to do it optimally.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's definitely engaging. I mean, doing all that while also like watching mechanics and moving, it's fucking insane.
What about Pharaohs in your raids, Mood or Crix? Do you guys see Pharaohs, and how do they do? Like, is there like a dedicated cat druid sometimes?
There's a dedicated Pharaoh, but it's a tank, and that's all I need to say. But I will say, I know we're talking about PvE, and we haven't talked about the PvP side, but I'll say Pharaoh's amazing at PvP. I like it. They're annoying.
Really?
But raiding, I haven't seen a cat raid yet.
Well, does your bear not go cat when you don't need him to tank, or is he a main tank?
To be honest, I don't pay attention enough to know if he's doing that. He's the off tank. He's the main off tank. So I don't know if I don't think I've ever seen him go cat, but at the same time, I never paid attention to see if he was going cat, if that makes sense.
It's probably the difference between like second tank versus third tank role, where the third tank can DPS a lot more than the second tank kind of situation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yo, we were learning last week, Shrifty, that, and sorry, as a quick aside, I just know this would get you excited, bro. That druid has, I think they said, the best single target threat out of all the tanks. And then in Sunwell, they're like God mode, and they go like 80% dodge. You can't hit them.
They were kind of like that in Classic already. I mean, I would, always get into these big dick matchups. I mean, there were certain warriors that knew, how to Fury. Like, they were literally, the Fury tanks could compete maybe in threat, and once they had Thunder Fury, I'm sure. But yeah, in TBC, they're the kings of the single target threat.
Okay.
And they're still solid at AoE. But
so I have a question too. So Classic is going to be maybe 2.5 times easier than these private server values, maybe allegedly. And we saw this. There's a precedent here with like the vanilla private servers versus how it ended up being in Classic. Do you think it's going to be a little bit less min-maxy come real TBC Classic? And if so, how many slots do you think there's going to be for like warriors, rogues, melee on progression and stuff like this? Try to like have an open mind here, going into the first couple raids here. Do you think like in reality, if you had to guess, most raids aren't super hardcore. Like, are you still talking there's going to be a few spots here, or what do you think?
I mean, I feel like people are still gonna be min-maxy, just like they're in Classic. That meta of people min-maxing and flavor of the month and stuff is not gonna change.
Yeah,
none of that's gonna change. It's gonna keep going. That's the life of WoW. That's not a Classic thing. That's a retail thing. That's a Legion thing. That's a Battle for Azeroth. That's a WoD. Everyone does that. It's not gonna change. It's the same way. Okay. Unless something happens. I mean, how like Classic came out and people found some like stuff that was different than private servers, and this ended up being better than this. Unless something happens that we're not aware of, no. I'm not benching a warlock for, or a hunter for another warrior or rogue or enhancement shaman, which we haven't talked about, or a rep pouty, which we haven't talked about.
Okay. What do you think, Mo?
Yeah, I agree. But I do it's not going to be a full-on meta shift to all of a sudden like we're melee stacking. Like, hunters and warlocks are still going to be top, but I think the spots will open up for melee more because the content's going to be easier. Probably the bosses will have less health. Some of the mechanics will be more forgiving. Like I said, it's not going to be a full-on meta shift, and it's going to depend on what boss you're on, and if your guild is going to be subbing out different people for different comps. And
I mean, honestly, right, it's always the player. It's like, if you're in the most hardcore of hardcore guilds, you can assume that everyone's doing everything right, so you'll bring the most optimal. But usually, like, that guy is just better than, another 5 DPSers. So even if they're supposed to, how it was in most of the raiding guilds, right? The people that try hard enough and are very good are going to beat the expected.
But maybe it's so far different, though, Shrifty, because I feel like that way in Classic, honestly. I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but, like, if I put me on any class, like, and you just go into a random semi-hardcore raid or something like that, and you come, to party, and you might pay for a PI or two or something, you do what you got to do, like you'll be able to be up there, like top 5 or something like that. You think, but maybe it's that far from hunters, and warlocks. Maybe like
It's far. And another thing is, a lot of these fights, if you think of like a Lar, you can't be a melee in that fight. That's rough as fuck. You can, but you're not doing anything.
It's true. The boss.
I mean, Solarian, your rip is a melee.
You actually
know
can't
what I
do
mean?
anything.
KT,
Right?
you need to have a couple people on KT. You need to have a couple melee for Vag to handle the Tainted Course and shit like that. But you don't. I mean, that's it. It's too hard for it. It's not just like the mechanics say how Swifty was saying you have to be behind a boss. It's the fact that you have to move out of a mechanic, which is easy for you to do, but the time it takes for you to move back and forth 5 times a fight versus me just moving as a caster 2 feet over and continue casting, and then 2 feet and then continue casting. You got to run over and over again, which is just losing so much more damage overall in the raid.
Sure. You can always instant while you're moving too.
Yeah.
I see.
It's true, and if it's supposed to be like a one-shot mechanic, I doubt it's gonna be so undertuned that like melee in classic TBC will suddenly be able to just stand in the mechanic or something like that.
Yeah, which could be a possibility. Really, I didn't think about that.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. What about Enhancement Shaman? Is there Enhancement Shaman in your raid, Crix or Mood? Like, do you...
There's always one in the raid.
Always one.
For sure.
I think I could be wrong, but what I see from my melee, consistently over the past like 9 months of raiding on this on Endless was our Enhancement Shaman was the best melee that we had. We also never ran a rogue until T6. You know what I mean? We didn't run a warrior that much, but when we did, you always see the Enhance is the one that's the meme one supposedly, but that's the one I see above the Ret Paladin, above the rogue, above everything else.
Damn, you see the Enhance above the Ret?
Yeah, but also we didn't run a rogue. Yes, above the Ret, and it could just be I don't know anything about Ret or Enhancement Shaman. It could be how they're spec'd or anything, but pretty much everybody in the guild is min-maxing. So from what I'm seeing is Enhance. I like Enhance.
So Enhance kind of pumps then?
A little bit, yeah. They're not. I mean, it's still melee. Don't get me fucked up, but it's nice. I like them. I like them better than you know.
I mean, if they totem twist, you're talking about giving your whole group like 500.
They have the biggest
power,
buffs.
4 or 5% crit, and Wind Fury.
Yo, Crix just refers. It's like they're so like you just reviewed him. You talk about melee in such a funny way as a warlock.
Well, I'm a caster, baby. I don't care if I'm pressing one button the whole time. We're pumping.
Oh, I love it, man. That's hilarious. Okay.
It's true though, man. And yeah, like Enhance, I mean, Shaman is just like the epitome of a useful class. Like if you're talking about classes that are useful, Shaman is always going to be useful. There's so many different totems they can use, and Enhance, a good Enhancement Shaman is for sure totem twisting. So that means giving Wind Fury and Agi Totem, and you know they have enough globals to do that. Like LA Shamans are pretty much never going to totem twist because they're constantly casting, but Enhanced Shaman has free globals, and you know to min-max that class, they better be totem twisting, and that really does help. What I think we're going to see in TBC Classic most likely is kind of 2 melee groups, like group 1 for the main tanks, and then maybe there's going to be 1 melee that kind of sneaks in there. And I kind of think that we are going to see another group with possibly 1 Enhanced Shaman in the tank group and 1 Enhanced Shaman in a second melee group. Like it's not going to go to full on just melee zug cleave, but I think it is somewhat likely that we'll see 2 melee groups be meta.
Well,
I don't like that.
It's like you said, though, only Enhancement Shaman is really in a good position to twist, and they should, right? And who benefits the most from twisting is a Hunter, because they don't benefit from the Wind Fury, they want the Grace of Air. So, you know, it would make sense to throw a couple Hunters in with your Enhance, with your Feral, and just give them all these buffs. You know, your top pumping Hunters can pump that much harder. And it hits their pets, too. Like, everything affects them and their pets.
True, and Enhancement looks so freaking cool, like just the spells. So wait, I think we're making progress here, guys. I actually think this is useful for people. Like, if you want to play melee, you love the ideas of big slapper purple weapons and all this. I mean, what's the most useful melee? It seems like it's Enhance. Like, even more so than Ret, possibly. Or what do you guys think about that? Like, if you want to play melee, what's the most useful? The most that will have the highest chance of a raid spot.
Feral tank. Are you not counting tanks?
Oh no, it could be. Yeah. So you think Druid's like really useful and good?
I think Enhance is nice. I don't know about running 2 melee groups, but I like Enhance. Usually Enhance is in the tank group, and your other group is just the Feral, Arsham, 3 BM Hunters. I don't know. Some people run double Ellie instead of running double Enhance, and I like that better. I think Classic TBC is going to be more of running that second mage group with another Enhance or whatever in there, rather than another extra melee group, due to what we've already been talking about. I could be wrong. Obviously, I don't know everything, but I just don't see what can change from the game to make him, oh my god, Warrogues are amazing. Like, no, they're not. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what can change.
Yeah, I think Enhance for sure is like the safest pick if you just want to play melee and you don't care about the class. Enhance is the safest pick from what I've seen. You know, people love shamans, people love totems, bloodlusts. Like, you probably will get a spot as an enhanced shaman.
And how many shamans do you have in a raid? I mean, you have like at least 4.
One in every group, pretty much.
So what? Like, what do you think? Like 5 total?
I would want 5. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand if you don't get 5, but I would want 5.
I mean, but you should get 5. I think all these people who want to play, dude, you better switch from warrior to shaman.
Like you could.
Someone says, what class should I play to have a spot no matter what? It's shaman, bro.
Yeah,
It's true.
But you will be fine.
Everybody's
especially if you're willing to play any spec. Like, you're just the ultimate useful class. Like, you'll always get a spot if you're a shaman and you're willing to play any spec, because all shaman specs are viable.
Yeah, you want an Ellie Shaman for your top pumping casters. Like, that's...
Melderon went off about Ellie Shaman, dude, saying that they have all the new totem they get. He's excited for Ellie Shaman. He thinks they slap.
Ellie Shaman's my favorite secret class.
It's so
I
funny.
love it.
Type something in the chat if you're rerolling Shaman from Warrior or Rogue. Probably a couple of them out there. Now you know what to play, though, right, guys? This is useful. What about Rhett, though, man? Do you get excited when you see a Rhett Pally, or are you just kind of like, this guy?
I mean,
how do you guys feel about
I want
that?
the blessings, so...
Real quick, Bet's asked if totem twisting is possible on long fights like Illidan. It is, but you need to have wisdom for the mana for it, or you're not going to have the mana. And what did you just ask me?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, how do you guys feel about a Rhett melee DPS? Like, do you get excited? Does it excite you that they're in the raid at all? Like, do you feel like they're contributing? And do you see more
excited?
Yeah.
They contribute 2% damage to the party, and they have a 3% crit to the entire raid. And then their judgment. So like they're needed, and I vibe with them. But in my eyes, it's a melee still. That's why you only bring 1, though. You know.
Yeah.
But his name is Blazed. He pumps. T6. He's pumping. All of our melee are pumping. All the shit that everyone's been talking the entire life cycle. Now we're at the end where they're just dumpstering people.
Wow. How do you feel about like Rhett Paladin's mood?
For me, I don't know. Red Pallies, for sure they are useful, and it's for sure worth it to bring 1. That's kind of how TBC goes. Is there's a lot of, like, essentially every spec is viable because they all bring something to the table. But I mean, for me, I just play a warrior, so I've never considered playing Ret.
What does Ret provide? Because I don't remember.
Ret is 3% crit for the entire raid, and then 2% damage to the party. Plus, they're keeping judgment up on the boss the whole time too.
That's true.
Seal the Crusader.
And, yeah,
I could be wrong. I think it's called Seal the Crusader.
Okay, let me see.
And the Crusaders try to keep it up all the time. It's nice. They're not that, but they're not that annoying. They don't annoy me as much as warriors and rogues do.
Okay. All right.
I don't see this, but I'm sure you're correct. I just don't see the talent you're talking about.
We can talk about melee misconceptions now. Is there anything that comes to mind there? Or we can transition into talking about stats too, and just maybe quality of life, how easy it is to gear these. This is another implication too. Like, are you gonna have, is it gonna be, maybe it's easy as hell to gear melee because not that many of them are there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I've never geared one. I'm not sure. I did ask a rogue before, the one who was going to come on earlier, and he said, as a rogue perspective, I said, going from T4, T5, and T6, can you tell me how they are? And he said, T4, they're okay. T5, they're horrible. T6, they're great. T4 is kind of a joke tier in general. Gruul and Hiking Mulgar are decent rogue fights along with Mac Therodon, and you get a lot of rogues get a lot of gear in Karazhan and DST from Gruul's. T5 is just horrible in general because it's not. I guess I don't know if it counts for all melee, but
I keep hearing that about melee though. That T5 melee suck.
I mean, outside of tier pieces, you'd have way less competition for gear if there's just way less of them, you know, especially if tanks are focusing on tank gear and DPS wants DPS, you know. So definitely would gear up easy. Weapons, probably way less competition. You also have roughly equal loot drops to bosses in vanilla, but with 15 less people. So, you know, loot in general is bigger.
True.
And that is kind of a sleeper thing about melee and TBC. If you care about that sort of thing, like, in Classic, there's literally like 15 and maybe even 20 warriors in the raid. In TBC, there's like 2. So
yeah, you'll get
the gear is just flowing to you, which is a really nice feeling, going from, you know, just being like one class of like 15 to, you know, your own thing. If you do get the limited spot, which is hard to get.
Yeah.
As a rogue, especially Kargoz, I mean, other than the tier piece, any loot that drops that's for a rogue, like maybe the Pharaoh will want it, and other than that, it's yours, right? Like, there's
that's
no
kind of sick. So all the
competition
tier
for
gear, you get all the tier gear, like, and you look amazing.
Well, the tier gear is different, remember, because classes share tokens.
Oh,
you'd be
yeah,
competing.
that's right.
That is competed, but anything that isn't tier gear.
Okay. So
I've noticed that some of the quote unquote meme specs, melee, boomies, Ellies, they seem to be most geared people because, like you said, it is just them that needs it. There's just 2 warriors in there. There's just 1 rogue in there, so they typically end up the most geared and still far behind DPS.
Could you tank dungeons as a warrior in raid, like as arms or fury? How do you feel about that? Random question.
Sorry, repeat that.
I was saying, can you tank dungeons as arms or fury, or do you get dumpstered?
I'm sure you can. I mean, it depends on the dungeon, and it depends whether it's heroic or not. Fury is definitely better for tanking, I would say, because you just deal more threat, but I mean, for me right now on the server that I play currently, respecs are free, so I literally just go prot every time for dungeons, but you kind of are going to want to be prot in my experience. But in classic TBC, it could be different. I mean, the dungeons probably aren't going to be as hard as, we're used to playing on these servers.
Probably depends on like what level of progression you and your group have as far as gear goes, right? Like maybe in the beginning when you're first getting to 70 and just starting heroics, like no, I probably wouldn't be arms, but I think later they probably could just fine.
Yeah, like in classic I was literally never prot spec and was able to tank like every dungeon, but there are definitely certain dungeons, heroics especially in TBC, that I would not want to tank at all if I'm not prot.
I remember always wanting a prot pally as my heroic tanks. They were just juicy to have.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go through the raids here. Let's go talk about like Karazhan, and then we can move on forward. Like just light and polite, light touch, broad strokes type thing. Do you think Karazhan and maybe just some of the initial raids, Gruels, Hyjal, anything like that? How does it? You think melee do okay early, or does it? People hear that they do better in Sunwell, so on and so forth. You always hear that, right? That melee tend to power up later. But curious, maybe if we move raid to raid, how you feel they do?
T4, they say they're not. I mean, damage wise, it's not going to change, but like mechanic wise, the T4, Gruels, Mags, and Karazhan is fine with them. Like mechanic wise, they're able to. That's why in T4, I think they're all right. They're
I think it's like Serpent Shrine and TK where they suffer the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard that you don't even take melee on progression on sometimes. Is that true?
We haven't. We've done that where we don't. Besides the Reptile and the Enhanced Ramen, yeah.
Damn.
But I mean, we've done. I remember us progging on the bosses without a warrior in there. Besides the tank.
So what kind of mechanics are these that makes it so hard for a melee to do damage in TBC?
It's just where you can't be boss, man. You got the whirlwind effects, anything in the boss where you have to move out of it real quick, like Leotheris. Alar is a lot of platform boss phase 1 where he goes platform to platform. They're not going to be able to run platform to platform and get there, so they kind of sit down and get the ads to spawn. Slayering is a more of a range. It's just range is so much easier.
I think TBC in general is where they started thinking more about just mechanics and fights and raids, whereas a lot of vanilla is more or less tank and spank with like slight adjustments.
Right, it's true. They wanted to make the fights more complex. They wanted to add a lot of mechanics. I think they kind of messed up. They were so focused on adding difficult mechanics, but they weren't focused on, kind of balancing the mechanics so that ranged and melee had to play around them. A lot of the times they would just, add a whirlwind effect or an AoE effect without really... I don't think it was their intention to basically to just push out melee DPS and make them way less viable. You would think their intention is to have most classes and playstyles be viable.
It's crazy because I feel like every RPG I play, melee has a disadvantage. Like I feel like all game designers haven't figured how to balance this yet. I don't know.
Yeah, you said something really big brain, Moot, that I thought that stuck with me. You were saying maybe devs possibly didn't know how to add in mechanics to engage with the range at the time, or they tried to, basically in TBC they tried to make the raids harder than in classic, right, and add a bunch more sophistication to them, but their immediate decisions affect melee more than range, and maybe towards the more retail or modded versions of the game they have all these crazy things that also affect ranged equally. So that's I don't know if you have anything else to say on that, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of just what I was saying. Like, they wanted to make the fights more complex. They wanted to add more mechanics, but they didn't realize, like, the simplest way to add more mechanics are mechanics that do affect melee. And I just don't think that it was their intention to really fuck over melee that hard and have so many mechanics that ranged in a lot of situations don't even really need to play around. I don't think that was their intention. They were just trying to make the fights more difficult, more complicated. But, you know, in later expansion packs, that is something they've addressed more, I think, in the mechanics, you know, more fairly affect ranged and melee.
Gotcha.
But TBC, they were still fresh to the development of WoW in a lot of ways. They were still, you know, figuring out what they wanted to do with raids and mechanics and everything. And it's a huge jump from Classic. I just don't think it was clear to them or their intention that melee would be affected way more than range, and, you know, melee would become kind of unviable.
So here's the thing I'm curious about, and I think Crix will probably be pretty polarized. Moot might have a different opinion on this. If it wasn't for all of these melee mechanics messing up, you know, your rotations and stuff like that, if it was pure paper doll, target dummy, all buffs, do you still think Hunter and Warlock would be that much further ahead than melee? Or maybe, you know, it would probably depend on different gear levels as well, but do you have maybe any thoughts on that?
I would say not like as far ahead, because you are able to sit there in melee, but still behind, yeah. Because it seems like some of those melee don't scale as well as the casters are in T5.
Okay.
But don't forget, these melees are all great in Arena. Warriors and Rogues are both incredible in Arena. And, you know, unlike in Vanilla, where the end game, like, if you really wanted to go try hard, felt like you pretty much had to raid, you know, or speedrun or whatever. In TBC, Arena sort of offers, like, almost an alternative end game, where it was very respectable for people to get high ratings, and obviously very high skill cap, because it's, you know, based on other people, which is, like, it's limitless, right? So, you know, and Warriors are fantastic in lots of different comps, and Rogues even more so. So, yeah, they're, you know, that's cool.
So not as wide of a spread. Melee would do a bit better. And people say that, you know, once melee get full gear, you want to know the best reason to play melee? Warglaives. But, you know, like, let's say you get Warglaives and everything.
Yeah, what the fuck is with all the legendaries for Warriors?
You think Warrior can do more damage than Rogue, you know, with full everything, Moot? Or which melee do you think that does the most damage potentially?
That's that's a hard question. I mean, I would say Warrior, because I think Warrior, just the, you know, rage mechanic and how you scale with crits and how much damage you do affects how much rage you gain. I would say Warrior scales the hardest with gear.
Yeah, I mean, that may make sense. You have the infinite resource, you know, like rage versus energy is kind of fixed, and but it's hard to say. I mean, you're post tier 6 right now, right, Crix?
Yeah. We're waiting for Sunwell.
Waiting for Sunwell. Yeah, I'm curious what's gonna happen. So but right now, post tier 6, everyone. So people have full tier 6 pretty much.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Yeah, everyone's pretty stacked.
Do you see?
And the Rogues dumping, the Enhanced and Shaman's dumping on people, the Warriors dumping on people.
Who's doing the best?
Rogues scale extremely good with gear, and they get proud their T6 over everyone else. And they have no competition because the tokens are shallow. So
in your raid, your Rogues are stronger than the Warrior.
Yeah, and all the fights in Black Temple and Mount Hydra, they're fine with melee. They're not. I mean, Illidan's kind of rough, you know, because of Phase 2. But other than that, it's not. It's way more melee friendly than all of T5, which is why you see them pumping as well, because they don't have to run out of shit a bunch of times, you know. It gets to the point where we have to worry about our melee pulling threat now in TBC, in T6, because they're pumping like hard. And you like, it was, swear to God, there's fights where the Warrior pull aggro, you know, and we're like, whoa, I've never heard anybody melee pull aggro, but they're fucking pumping, and they really are. Like, it's night and day. It's like T5. I show 10 on my damage done meters, like 10 for top 10 people. I would never see yellow or brown up there, bro. Rarely ever do I see them up there. And then we entered, you know, halfway through Black Temple, they're pumping hard.
I see. What about on trash and stuff too? I mean, I feel like Rogue probably still has no cleave, right? I mean, they don't have any. So Warriors probably cleave pretty good, huh?
Yeah. Yep. Warriors are fine. I don't know what enhancing them do, but Warriors, I see Warriors on the AoE. The AoE is still not going to do. That's not their shining force. You know, that's just the casters. But you see them doing some damage.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like a 2 to 3 mob pull cleave, Yeah, I think two-hand warrior, arms warrior is insane. Fury warrior is insane. You also have sweeping strikes. Whirlwind hits with both of your weapons in TBC, so that's definitely something that makes Fury a lot better.
Don't forget to rage pooling. Like, you know, none of the other melee DPS can do anything like that, but that can make a huge DPS difference in a fight if you go into it with full rage or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Whirlwind hits with both weapons?
Yeah, it just hits with both your weapons. So if you do want to play Fury, you want a slow main hand and offhand weapon just for Whirlwind.
Does it combine them into one yellow hit, or is it two separate hits? Because I'm curious how it interacts with sweeping strikes, you know? Like, if it was, you hit Whirlwind and you see two yellow swings hit it. Or does it, like, combine it? I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's separate.
Separate? I mean, I wonder how it works with sweeping strikes. I mean, that sounds fun. I'm leveling a warrior right now, dude. I'm loving it. It's just so much fun. So much fun. Okay. Let's see here. Maybe we can move into... Oh, no, let's finish our thoughts on the raid tier. So, tier 4 seems like it's okay. You guys are saying, right, Craig? So, you still... They do okay. There's no mechanics. Alright, there's still a melee. You know, there's still a small sun melee in there.
Alright.
Yeah. Okay, tier 5. Apparently, this is the dreaded tier for melee. I keep hearing this. What about tier 5 is so garbage for melee?
How about the boss just flying away from you on a LAR, for instance? That makes it kind of hard to hit the boss.
Throwing weapon? Gunshot? No.
Yeah, dude, just whip the gun out.
Whip the old blunderbuss out.
Hydros is about the only melee-friendly fight in SSC.
I was gonna say, I remember Bash was
the only one that's melee-friendly in TK.
Is the only one? You said there's only one?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. Void River and TK is probably the only time you will see it. You can be a melee and sit there and not move the entire time and pump. And then Hydros as well. Well, Hydros, you got to move with the boss when he transitions, obviously, but...
So all of TK...
Especially Warriors, because they have the 4 ads, and they can roll in those ads, you know?
Okay. So all of TK, every fight except for one, melee are kind of struggling, because they're moving the whole time, or... Okay.
Alar, worthless, as Mooch just said. Solarian's rough, depending on how... I mean, it's server-based with the mechanic, the wrath mechanic she has, but they're always rip on there. KT, you need him anyway, but that's a little rip as well. Void Reaver, they can sit there and the entire fight and not stop.
Okay.
Yeah, and SSC Lurker is probably one of the better fights Melee has from what I've seen from logs, and that still is pretty terrible. Like, Lurker...
You still have to move out all the time, yeah.
Exactly. Lurker literally does a whirlwind knockback that only will hit Melee.
Well, it hits anybody in melee range every like 30, 45 seconds or something like that. It's annoying. And it just knocks you off the platform, so it's like super bad. But that is a pretty... I mean, outside of that, you can melee. You can, back up just for real quick and come back in.
But part of playing Melee is learning, how to play your class and play it in certain situations. Like, for instance, on Lurker, there's a circular platform. There's an ability Lurker does called Spout. And how you dodge Spout is just by going underneath the water. And the ranged DPS are going to go on the outside of the circle, underneath the water. But as melee DPS, you can go on the inside of the inner circle, underwater, still dodge the spout, and still be in melee range, DPSing Lurker. So as melee, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you. You're going to have to learn the exact strategy of how to play melee, like in accordance to these different mechanics. And there's also something cool you can do as a warrior, because there are, like little fish, little piranha that spawn on Lurker fight. You can get enraged procs off of taking damage from fish. And,
that depends on that. That'll depend on the patch, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because depending on the patch, because you actually clear the platforms that bullet.
Is it so? SSC? How is SSC? Does SSC have a lot of melee friendly fights?
No, not really. I would probably say Lurker is the best one, like he said. Oh, Hydra's probably the best one, second last boss.
Oh, and Vash.
Fathomore doesn't seem that bad.
Vash is impossible for melee?
No, Vash, you need him on there. They're not bad on there. It's not as good as the range, obviously, but you need him on there to handle elementals, tainted cores, and stuff like that. Fathomlord's rip. You actually, you know what? On Tidewalker melee can sit. I think they're pumping the whole time, right?
They have He has Earthquake, doesn't he?
Earthquake, no, the Earthquake knocks everybody down, but that's when he summons some Murlocs, and then but melee can, I think on Tidewalker, they're free to pump.
Great.
Okay.
They're free to pump on.
I guess we'll find out what happens.
So SSC...
I expect some melees to pump.
Seems pretty decent. I mean, it's kind of cool if you're able to be useful on the final boss of a raid, like just even flavor-wise, you know, that's pretty sick that you can have impact on the final boss of a tier, as opposed to, you're saying on Illidan, for example, that Melee really struggle on Illidan, and we can get into that next with Black Temple. How is Black Temple for Melee? Any fights,
Let's see, give me a second.
Pulling up the old log.
Nash seems fine. Nash seems fine. Suprema seems fine. Nakama seems fine. I don't know what's one that's really. Illidan is rough because of phase 2 with the elementals, but you can tank them in a certain way to where the melee can hit him. It's just kind of sketch.
Just be a Tarn. Easy.
During shadow phase, melee has to run pretty far out, so they have room for the casters to be up there and seed. I would say Illidan's probably the worst one for melee in Black Temple, but it's not that bad. I mean, they're still able to pump. Also, you front Mount Hydra, which is T6 as well, which I think melee is fine on that one too.
Remind me of the Archimon mechanics. Is there anything anti-melee in that?
The second phase is a 2 big ass fire elementals you gotta fight, and there's fire everywhere. So where melee can't really.
That's
There's
right.
fire cutting off the and you can't put them in front because they'll cleave down. But you can kite. I haven't seen our regulars do it, but you can kite them out. Oh, Council. Council's not that bad for melee. Council's actually that's the one fight in TBC that's horrible for ranged, which we can get to next week. But yeah, Council's it's not as good, but it's not as bad. I'd probably say Illidan's the worst.
Okay.
But you still got him there.
All right.
You need him there.
Anything on BT mood, or you pretty much agree with what he's saying?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, yeah, Illidan seems rough. I mean, it's just a question of, you know, finding what fights you can have an impact on and learning how to play around certain mechanics, whether, you know, you're a warrior and you're intercepting, intervening to dodge certain mechanics. Maybe if you're playing a rogue, Cloak of Shadows is going to help you situationally. Like, you gotta learn how you can be viable.
That's true. I forgot, like, well-timed cloak, you might be able to get around certain mechanics and things like that. So you really just have to be better. You know, be better if you want to do melee and be good.
Be better.
Min-max as much as you can if you want to be a melee man. You can be a melee, so you got to min-max as much as you can. Or be smart. I have people from my guild reaching out to me way ahead of time, like, yo, I want to be your rogue, or I want to be your warrior. Be smart and call that out if you want one ahead of time.
Call it out early, right now, guys.
Yeah, bro. Hey, TBC's out in a year. I'm dibs in that rogue spot.
2 slots in the raid. Call it out right now. 1 year in advance. Not even announced yet. Shot.
That is actually how that works, dude. That's how those spots get filled.
Shot first Warglaive. That's it, right there.
I will say that rogues are. There's been times where, like in T5, we didn't have a rogue, and there's been times where we've wiped the bosses having interrupt issues. Yes, I know other people can interrupt, but the rogue is just so fucking good at interrupting and being able to do it so much. Like Mac Therodon, for instance, progging Mac Therodon without a rogue kind of sucks because they're so good at kicking. And then you have to
bring
shaman
one
having
rogue
to
just to
yeah.
arena gear.
All right. Well, let's talk about Sunwell, then we'll be done with this section of it. Apparently, allegedly, melee slaps in Sunwell. I don't exactly know why. I never cleared Sunwell myself, but this is what I hear. You guys hear anything similar? Or?
Melee friendly, and they scale. All of them scale to gear. It's just them needing the gear to do it in T6, and that's when they get it.
Okay.
And they pump. No.
Yeah.
This, for sure. This is when the gear starts getting really, really good for melee. Like early on, expertise isn't easy to itemize, but at this point in the game, you know, you're going to be getting tons of gear that has tons of expertise, but also tons of other really good stats. So it's just free to itemize expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a perfect.
You need expertise, and T4 previous has like I think 1 piece of expertise they can get, and then 1 from classic they can wear as well, and then they start getting more expertise as time goes by, which thus obviously makes them be better. And T6 is full of everything with expertise rating on it.
Okay. Interesting. So I mean, that first of all, that's kind of nice. Like, put yourself in the eyes of a melee. Like, you know, they can expect a power level increase the later we get into expansion. They can always be looking forward to something throughout the life cycle of a TBC server. Like, oh, one day, you know, come Sunwell, I'll have the gear and I'll keep up with you, stupid warlock, stupid caster, and they'll be able to, you know, as opposed to getting weaker with time. You know, i.e., pretty much a hunter, you know. In some sense in classic, right? Just because your pets don't scale or something like that. It kind of feels bad to think that you're going to be at your strongest early in a server as opposed to later. Anyway, relative to the other classes. So let's move into stats for melee. You mentioned expertise. Maybe you could go into that a little bit, and maybe also haste. This is another stat that interacts with melee in an interesting way. What do you think about that, Moon?
Yeah, we've brought up expertise a few times. Obviously, expertise is the stat that lowers your chance to be parried or dodged. So, I mean, it is essentially increasing the amount of good hits that you have on your hit table, reducing bad hits if you get a dodge, on your execute or your mortal strike. That's one of the worst feelings. But kind of what I was talking about just a second ago is that expertise early on in TBC is very, very limited and can kind of be a trap that is not really worth itemizing, because early on you're not going to be having that much crit, that much attack power on your gear. And if you're sacrificing even more crit and attack power for expertise, it's actually just not going to be worth it. Like, the itemization that early in the game just isn't set up to even be really close to expertise cap, and it's not worth giving up on an item that's giving you a ton of strength and a ton of crit. Like, the best expertise items is an item that's going to give you some expertise, but it's also going to give you the other stats that you really want as a warrior, which is strength, crit, agility. A really good example of this is pretty much literally every melee DPS is using this item. It's from a quest chain in Blade's Edge Mountains. It's the Cleft Hoof Hide Leggings. The Chad dress. It's actually a leather dress. And
the Chad dress?
It is a dress, yeah. And literally every melee DPS right now on the server I play is using it.
What? That sounds like a massive downside to playing melee. You have to wear a dress?
You're gonna have to wear a dress for multiple raid tiers.
Alright, I'm out. Stream's over, dude. No, oh, never mind. Wait, hold on. What is this dress called? Let me look this up. You said Cleft Hoof dress? Cleft Hoof. Is it Cleft Hoof leggings?
Cleft. I can't remember the exact name. Cleft Hoof Hide Leggings.
Oh, I see it. That's a dress, alright. It's even got chains on it. There you go, folks.
Isn't that for druids?
If you didn't already have a reason to roll a
wear that
female
unless until
character,
your
there you
profession.
go. Kilt, okay.
Sure, you want to call it a kilt,
I like
call it a dress, but you're gonna be wearing that shit through tier 5. If you look at, one of the best DPS warriors on the server, which we are gonna look at, he is in full T5 bis. He's still rocking the dress.
Yo, damn. So you're telling me there's Zug Orc Warriors. Orc Warriors, Fury Arms Warriors, and they're rocking the kilt or the dress.
Yeah, you are literally going to be living in that dress through tier 5. So,
oh my land.
You better like that look. You better get used to that look.
Yo, is it weird to say that actually is like affecting me? Like that's like that would move the needle for me if I was thinking about playing warrior. Yo, like you're telling me like it's the same thing for some paladins. They know they have to wear that green dress in classic. For so long. Sorry about my dogs. I was interrupting my streams. Anyway, sorry. Keep talking about stats. Maybe like haste or something, or oh no, you know what? Yeah. God damn it, my dogs. I think they're quieting down now.
Well, with expertise too, it's also even for tanks because they have to face their targets, right? The chance to parry from a boss is much larger even than dodge, and expertise affects both. So you're getting like twice as much benefit from tanks, and if you can't get behind the target for whatever reason. So expertise, although it's a good stat to have once your crit is high enough, it's even better in situations where you can't get behind your target or whatever. So it's a good one. Haste is super good. Drums, Bloodlust.
Yeah, true.
That trinket everybody wants from Magtheridon. What's it called?
Don't know.
You mean Gruels? DSDs?
Yeah, that's it.
Dragon Spine? Yeah.
Yep, that's the one.
Yo, so Moot said something that resonated with me. Let me know if this is the case. Warlock, Crix, you're my Warlock liaison too. Maybe we can make sense of this. So you're saying expertise can be a trap because if you just get like 1 or 2 pieces that have expertise on it, and that's part of the stat budget, you're nowhere near expertise cap, and it's not that high impact. You might as well just go more offense. Like to me, that the analogy I have for or comparison would be for Warlock early, phase 1, phase 2. You're so far away from the spell hit cap like you don't have any of that ZG itemization or anything like that you might as well not even go for the hit and just stack spell power and stack.
Exactly what you do.
You know? So it's kind of like, is this kind of like that for melee?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, for instance, there is expertise gloves that drop in Karazhan, and they have pretty decent stats. They have expertise, agility, and attack power. But as a warrior, there's also gauntlets of martial perfection that drop off of Gruuls, and they just have massively more strength, more crit. They have 2 sockets, and when you are limited on your attack power and your crit right at the start of TBC, you aren't going to want to use an expertise item that's limiting your strength and crit. It's just simply not worth it. The only time expertise is good is when it's on an item that already has a lot of really good stats, and the Cleft Hoof Hide Leggings is a great example of that. Cleft Hoof Hide Leggings has agility, strength, hit rating, and expertise. It's a very good balance of stats.
Gotcha. From my understanding, expertise is also worth like twice as much as hit because you're affecting the dodge and the parry. So, like for instance, those clef hides have 18 expertise rating. You count that as 36, even though it's not the hit. From a warrior I talked to, I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I guess you could think about it like that. I just always prioritize getting a hit cap because it's, more possible to early on, and getting that 9% hit cap will make your yellow hits never miss, which is huge.
Yeah, hit capping is much easier in TBC than in vanilla, so it's
was it 9%?
The 9 for most classes, yeah. If you have a Boomkin in your raid, then melee and ranged only needs 6% because improved.
If you have a Draenei,
3.
You have a Chad Draenei, yeah.
If you have an Ellie Shaman in your party, you get 3% spell hit, and then Draenei, yeah. If you have a Draenei in your party, you get 1%.
Yeah, 1% too. Yeah, that's kind of nice.
But then you have to be Alliance, so.
So just back to the original point too. When you get expertise cap, you're saying with the Sunwell itemization, you have a much larger selection, so you can reach that expertise cap. You're saying that does that activate, God mode for melee? Like you start to really hit a lot more consistently. You're not hitting harder, but you're just, connecting with more damage, and that just takes you to the next level. Or is it not a big deal?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would say for sure that's one of the big reasons that melee is seen as scaling very hard, is being able to just itemize so much crit, so much attack power, and so much expertise all together. Like, that really is when you will find your most success as melee.
Okay. What about like armor pen and haste and any of those other types of things? How are those for you? Priority-wise.
Yeah, those are also really big, and those also are not easy to itemize early on in the TBC life cycle. Like, they don't even really exist on items, before tier T6, I believe. Yeah. So once those stats come into effect as well, that it's all kind of compounding factors on why melee is seen as scaling very hard.
Gotcha.
Ferals get a nice expertise weapon right in the beginning.
Which one?
Earthwarden.
Earthwarden.
They just need Exalted with Zangermarsh.
Yo, Druid's level. I mean, they gear so fast, man. I played a Druid on Endless. Like, you get geared so fast. A couple days, you're good to go.
For sure, and you can always whore yourself for heroic tanking and get the primal nethers, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Solo level, you can farm and solo level fast. You never have to eat or drink as a druid. Very low downtime.
Yo, Druid is really fun in TBC, man. I was even thinking about manning a Druid, and I'm not really into the Druid class fantasy, but it was just so fun that I was thinking about it, man. Tauren is the way too.
Druid sluts. No, I mean, there's going to be probably a lot of people that make druids just to arena with.
Yeah. 100%. Well, so how's the quality of life overall? I guess you can speak on Druid and Warrior, and we'll get into casters next week. So, I'm really curious about Warrior. Like, how is it just being a Warrior in TBC? Like, to go solo, do your dailies, make gold, just interacting with the world? Like, do you have a great time? I mean, is there something to be desired when you're just piloting your character day to day?
I mean, I always love Warrior because of the class fantasy we were talking about before. Just, the rage mechanic, the having a gigantic two-hander. Like, as a warrior, when you're on someone, say in PvP, and they can't peel you, you are, an endless damaging machine that's just going to ramp up throughout the fight. But, like you're saying, I mean, part of the class fantasy of playing warrior is being stuck in Frost Nova and being stuck in entangling roots and, being polyed and being literally just
Curse of
destroyed by a
exhaustion.
mage.
Well, you have a little bit. You have a spell reflect type, right? You have some stuff that can help. Is it? How is the 1v1 potential of warrior? You still suffering? You still feel it? 1v1 against most classes? Can you?
Sure, you have spell reflect, but mage has ice lance. Water elemental, shatter, cold snap, water elemental again. Like you have spell reflect, but mage literally gets another Nova. So, I mean, if you want to beat a mage, for sure you have to be Gnome Warrior. And Spell Reflect is huge. Spell Reflect is huge. It gives you more agency when you're just sitting in a Nova. You have more interaction with the enemy. But, I mean, if you're 1v1ing a mage and you Spell Reflect a Frostbolt, sure, that's going to help you. But if it's a good mage, the mage is still going to win.
Gotcha.
But I mean, picking a warrior, you know what to expect, and this is something I really love about older versions of World of Warcraft. Like, there are different classes, and different classes have different strengths and abilities, and there's classes that straight up counter other classes, and that's something that's really gone in newer versions of World of Warcraft. Like, the classes are all homogenized. They all have the same abilities. Every class has a stun, every class has a heal, etc., etc. Like, when you pick a warrior, you understand what you're getting into. Like, when you're on someone, you're a fucking unstoppable killing machine. Like, you ramp up during the fight. When you're just sitting in a Nova, you're getting countered by a mage. Like, and that's just what being a warrior is. But kind of what we were talking about before, like, just the same as when you out DPS a class that you're not supposed to on a warrior. When you beat a class in 1v1 that you're not supposed to beat as a warrior, it's much more satisfying. Like, if
rogues can get a few combo points on someone, DPS someone else, shadow step back in, stun them, interrupt, like, they're fantastic in PvP. The difference, like I said earlier, between good and great is just night and day. They get so much better.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what class do you guys think actually counters a rogue in TBC?
Like one-on-one or what?
Yeah, sure. Let's say one-on-one.
I can fuck with warlocks. Can fuck with rogues if I can use a FAP.
No. If you can't, if you don't FAP, I mean, if it's like arena style, then a rogue's gonna shell over.
Yeah, if I can't use a potion one-on-one, I mean pot one-on-one, rogues are the only thing that mess with warlocks, and also that's kind of dependent because as affliction, I can mess with warlocks because I have an instant.
I actually think the one class I can hold up against a rogue is a Restoken Druid.
I think druids and frost mages can both beat a rogue. I wouldn't say either counter necessarily, but they both can beat him.
Because the thing about druid is you have those short cooldowns that are like that kind of keep up with the rogues. Like if you have big cooldowns and you're big cooldown dependent, then the rogue just makes you pop your cooldown.
No, you don't have to be feral. Feral fairy fire makes it easier because you can fairy fire without having to shift out.
Yeah,
but
true. That is
you definitely don't have to be feral.
They can still get it off though, right? With cloak though, so like. Yeah, I mean, NS Cyclone, dude. This is what I'm thinking about. You NS Cyclone the Rogue, you yoink back control of that match. Like, you at least you have the ability to. I don't know. That's a quick aside, but what do you think, Life? Did you have a thought on it?
Yeah. No, those are all really good suggestions. It really, it depends on CDs. It depends on the situation. Few people in chat are saying Warrior. I do think Warrior does have a good matchup against Rogue. I mean, you can go Sword and Shields. You've got Plate Gear. You've got Overpower.
Second wind too, right? Don't you get a good amount of health? You're getting all controlled by the Rogue that whole time.
Yeah, Second Wind is incredible. You heal and gain rage whenever you're rooted or stunned. Definitely incredible. You also have, I think it's called Unwavering Will, which gives you 25% stun resistance.
All right.
But, still, like, fighting a rogue as a warrior...
An orc warrior would probably do very well.
Yeah, orc warriors are crazy in TBC.
Oh, yeah, true. Yo, the coolest thing. That they put the stun resist in the arms tree. That's so badass, dude. And then they also have the gem, too. That sounds just absolutely insane in PvP. What is it? You can get, like, 40% stun resist or something?
It's, for a warrior, yeah, 40. Assuming it stacks additively, because you get 15 from hardiness, 15 from the talent, 5% from the meta gem, and then I guess you have a base 5%, so 40.
Yeah.
At that point, you're going to want to go with a movement speed meta gem, in my opinion, and you're going to want to go with sure-footed on your boots, which is 5% slow and snare resistance, because you already have so much stun resistance.
Unless you really hate rogues.
It's true. I mean, you could make a gear setup specifically to counter a rogue, I'm sure people will do that in like 1v1 duel tournaments.
Totally.
But for arena, you don't know what you're queuing into, and I think the snare and root 5% snare and root resistance.
Oh yeah, that's huge. Resisting like a Nova is massive, and mages are gonna be the bane of your existence if you play twos as a warrior. So.
Yo, how does that work with the slow resistance? You'll just resist the slow? Is that, or is it reduce the impact of the slow?
Yeah, you'll just resist it.
Oh.
You'll resist the slow. I'm pretty sure, like, say if someone's casting a frostbolt on you, the damage will still go, but the slow will resist. Because it's a different resist than resisting the full spell.
Yeah, loud and clear. Avatar Last Endbender. Yo, it actually looks good, dude. I gotta say. No homo, it looks really good.
You can pull it off, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Okay, I can hear you now. I should cut out.
Yeah, if streaming doesn't work out, man, you can get the new leading role in the next Avatar.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Were you asking
about I hit a shadow bolt
though?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Druid for a second too, Schwifty. So Schwifty, guys, we are lucky. I mean, this guy has gotten Glad on Druid, and I think did you play Feral when you got Glad, or it was probably Resto?
No, I was too edgy, but I will this time.
You will this time.
It was Resto, yeah.
Do you think Feral's good, or maybe slept on in PvP?
Yeah. I mean, Druids can I'm almost afraid to talk them up too much because I don't want too many players. But the reality is they can fucking do everything. I mean, you want to talk about daily solo farming? They're fast. They don't have downtime. Talk about gathering materials. Nobody beats Epic Playform.
True.
They're the king of gathering. You talk about dungeons. They can do dungeons as every spec. They can be a tank, which is going to be the most in demand, but they could also be the healer. They could also be a caster DPS. They can raid as all three specs.
Yeah.
You can get Gladiator in Arena with all three specs. Like Moonkins, yes, Moonkin Rogue is top tier 2s. You can do Feral Rogue or Feral Warrior, and then for 3s, you would probably want to stick with Resto. And obviously 2s, you've got Warrior Druid, Warrior Hunter, Druid Hunter, Druid Lock, Druid Warrior, Druid Rogue. So yeah, you can do everything as any spec, basically.
Isn't that kind of crazy that Druids are a lot of people would consider them like the memes of Classic? I mean, they're still great in Classic, don't get me wrong, but some people would say, gun to their head, Druids are the weakest class in Classic, and now they're the gods in TBC. And Hunters sort of are a little bit in that vein too, right? They are towards the bottom of the damage meters, and now in TBC, they're freaking godly, man. That's
they get that
exciting.
Huge power spike. And even having gear sets designed for off specs, which Vanilla didn't you could tell they didn't even think about Feral until they released AQ. There are things that work for Feral before AQ, but they hardly had ever really considered Feral items until AQ. Whereas with TBC, they consider, off spec gear, so to speak, off spec, right? Right away. And so that also helps a lot. The talent trees they make more sense, right? In Vanilla, you've got Resto talent tree, and there's damage and feral, and you're like, I don't get that. Or, you'll have the balance spec, and it'll be, things that don't fit. They definitely fix up the talent trees a lot.
For sure. Druid it just flows better in TBC. Would you agree, Swifty? You just have more buttons you can, on use abilities. You're just pressing every few seconds, and it just comes together, man, in TBC, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. A lot more CCs. Cyclone is incredible, right? yeah, they're kind of just gods. You can shift out of everything. You get that 15% extra speed in travel, so you're looking at like you basically have mount speed in travel form while running around a pillar humping with heals. Like
one of my favorite things about that the epic flight form you're talking about too is if you're in a combat in the water, guys, or if you're just in the water in general, you can jump out of the water and hit your bird form, and you can just pop right into flight
Can you
form.
though? Because I feel like I tried that back in the day and it didn't work.
Nah, it works for me. I mean, at least on that, might be a private server thing, but you just be in the water and you just go right into birdie form and fly off.
I remember specifically, I have this vague memory of me jumping up and down in the water 50 times trying to get it. Maybe it was like a batching thing. I don't know.
It was easy mode for me.
Frustrating, actually.
Well, maybe because private servers have smaller batching. That's possible too. By the way, let me just comment. Moot is getting some massive positive feedback. Moot has a lot of fans in the chat, man. Show some love. I mean, look at all the love in the chat for Moot. Les Thor's in the house too. Knows about Big Moot. You are loved, brother. Same with Swifty too, of course. There's some people chilling for Swifty, of course. That's the people, but yeah, man, you guys got some supporters in the chat, man. You love to see it. Okay, let's okay, one thing I was gonna say too about Melee, like just on a bloomer kind of note, you know, not a doomer kind of note, is if you like Melee and you like PvP mostly and not, you don't really care that much about rating, you know, some people PvE to PvP, you can just pretty much gear the whole way up just doing arenas, so you don't even have to touch the rating. So that's
if you want to min-max it, you have to touch the rating a little bit.
A little bit.
There are some items in PvE that are really, really good for PvP. Trinkets specifically. I mean, there's more. There's rings with armor on it, for instance, versus no rings with no armor. I mean, rings with no armor on it. You know, there's rings with res armor that you get from Lurker, for instance, or there's trinkets that come off, you know, in TK that are just broken.
Yeah, usually like the accessory pieces and trinkets and weapons are often things you'd want from raids.
And Warglaives are better than the PvP weapons, right? I heard.
Yeah.
Like
way better. And that demon attack powers, you know, is not nothing either.
Oh yeah, you pointed that out last time. That's
Fuck
cool.
Fell Hunters. You hear that, Crix? Fuck Fell Hunters. What do you have to say?
Fell Hunters. I can't wait for the Crix for a Swifty.
Get the Hunter out of it, bro.
Fuck your Fell Hunter. What's your Fell Hunter's name?
He's never heard anybody.
What's his name?
I don't know what his name
You
is.
don't even see. That's the problem with warlocks.
It's not Tyrone. They don't let you. Why? They don't let you name your pets for some reason. It's stupid.
You know, there can be an imp. You know,
So you don't even bother. It's not stupid. It's because they have their own identity. That's why. You know, it's not your pet. He is your demon summon, and you don't even know his name. So you know.
Yeah, and that demon Fell Hunter is on your ass.
Swifty, you know, one of the imp names, like in the name table, is Kargoz.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for somebody to give me a picture.
What are you, Kargoz?
Yo, I'm a Chad Fell guard. Yo, I love the Fell guard in TBC. I'm so sad that it's not that great, man. But it is so fun, man.
It's good. We'll get there next week.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Anything on the PvP front, though, guys? I mean, do you think Melee shine in PvP? We could just start there. Like, so we talked about the performance and rating.
Red Pallies, no. Enhanced Shamans, mostly not. There's some comps. They can do good in 5s, and some niche comps. But Ret Pallies, hell no.
Even in PvP, Ret Pallies, hell no?
Yeah, okay. No, they're probably like worse. I don't know which is worse.
What makes you feel like they're weak in PvP, a Ret Pally? Or like weaker, you know, we don't have to say
I think PD Paladins are probably arguably the weakest arena class, period. So they're already the weakest arena class. Obviously, a tank prot, you're not going to be prot in arena. So between Holy and Ret, I mean, just usually having like, at least they're really mana efficient healers that wear plate and have a bubble. But, you know, priests are like kings in arena and they're going to mass dispel your bubble anyway. And you don't really have much CC or mobility or the ability to be useful while moving.
Oh, yeah, all you have is the bubble.
And your damage isn't that good. Like, you're not like burstier than an enhancement shaman or even a warrior.
The pro priest with the the pre-casted mass dispels. So as soon as you bubble, it just gets
dude, priests are mass dispelling everywhere. They try to find rogues and shit. Like these priests are going to be no joke. Good priests are going to be kings of arena for sure.
That's got to feel so bad. You bubble as a pally, like, all right, guys, time to shift the tempo back in my favor. Time to bubble. It's just gone.
Yeah, Wrath of the Lich King was way different, Torn, because Ret got a huge buff in the pre-patch for Wrath. So big, they nerfed it because it was huge, and then they were still really good in Wrath. But in TBC, as far as meme specs go, I would argue Ret is the meme. Is really
you see Ret with Arsham a lot, and that's like I think that's might be the best Tuesday.
You can spell steal the wings too, right? That's another thing, right? The Avenging Wrath or whatever it's called, Venging Wrath, Vengeful Wrath.
I don't know about that.
I think you can, right? Somebody in the chat will know. Okay.
You know, it really depends too what comp you're fighting. Like, you know, say you're queuing threes, you want the most versatile comp that you can have. If you're queuing threes with, you know, Resto, Shaman, Warrior, Red Pally, that's literally like a melee comp. If you have to fight against, say, you know, like Hunter, Warlock, Druid, or like Mage, Warlock, Druid, like if you have to fight against a ranged comp and you have a melee comp, I mean, you're just countered. You know, Warrior is a bit better because you have charge. You know, I would say a much better comp, you know, is say like Warrior, Warlock, Druid. You know, that has melee and ranged. Like, if you pigeonhole yourself into just like a melee cleave comp, like, what if you fight a Hunter? What if you fight a Mage? Like, what if you fight a ranged comp? Like, you're literally just gonna be sitting in a freezing trap the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you want, honestly, I think Priest and Druid are the only healer you want in threes. Like, they're just both too good.
Yeah, they actually really are. Yeah, that's so true. Because Pally seems strong, I think about it. Like, they're really efficient, but then I think of Priest and Druid comparatively, and, you know, Mass Dispel, Shadow Word Death, like, oh, man.
Priest just absolutely counters Paladin in every way, like you guys are talking about. Like, literally, Paladin's best ability is Bubble, and you can just get rid of that. You can mana burn as a priest.
Yeah.
You can fear. You can play offensively and defensively. You can offensive dispel and defensive dispel. It's just like
Fear Ward.
Yeah, I mean, Oops.
Fear
Sorry.
Ward for everyone, yeah, for every priest race.
Am I muted? Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, I hit this button. No, yeah, you're 100%. I mean, priests just can do all the things, and paladins don't do very many things. Even shaman, like, they're better than paladins in the threes, but, like, priests, you can burst people, right? You can dispel everything. You can mass dispel everything. You can burn people and go for attrition. You've got AoE CC. You've got, if anyone, like, splits any damage or, like, they put your pet on someone else, like, you just throw on whatever the fuck the name, Prayer of Mending? What's the bouncing heal called?
Prayer of Mending, yeah.
Yeah, like, they're so good. And pain suppression for burst. They can do all the things. Like, druids, on the other hand, right, they can't do as many different things as a priest, but they've got spammable CC that they can just swap over and over and over and over and over. And then as far as being tanky, right, they can go bear and they're basically plate mail. They can heal themselves while moving around pillars. They can shift out of slows, shift out of poly. Like, why would you ever play shaman or paladin when you've got these two that can do
Looking at these classes, I gotta tell you, man, out of these melee classes, the one that seems the most fun in PvP is Warrior, dude. Warrior just seems so fun. Just visualize it with me, chat. You can have up to 40% stun resist. You get on somebody like White on Rice, putting massive pressure on them. Mortal Strike. Just rage. You're chilling. I almost feel like it's kind of clear what you have to do as a warrior. Like, when you play Rogue, I feel like you have to be like the puppeteer, the maestro, you know, blind, sap, gouge, kidney shot, prep, like do all this, cloak, blah, 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 and you make one mistake and you're dead. You know, I don't know. Warrior just seems like so fun in PvP. Can you confirm, Moot, or how do you feel about Warrior in Arena?
I mean, I love Warrior in PvP. Obviously, I grinded rank 14 in Classic. You know, literally spent thousands of hours PvPing on Warrior, and yeah, it for sure is very, very fun. And, you know, people, sometimes Warrior gets flack for being pretty easy, especially Warrior Druid is kind of considered to be a pretty, you know, brainless comp. But I firmly believe that, and like, you know, if you're min-maxing and you're playing your class to your fullest, you know, no class and no comp is easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, right? The skill caps, you know, if you want to get glide, you just have to be good. But I agree. I think Warrior is probably like one of the easiest classes to play in Arena, at least like decently.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about just Arena in general, TBC and 243? It's a question for the chat too. Do you think the classes, you think it's pretty balanced? Do you think there's some pretty good, you know, comps and counter comps and so on and so forth? Are you guys excited for the real thing, or?
I mean, it's pretty much the same comps you're gonna see.
Super excited. No, there's new ones. There's new ones. I've been watching some videos from like these private server people. You know, stuff's definitely changed. Mage Priest apparently is a thing that was not a thing back in retail TBC, but people have figured that out. Balance, Druid and Rogue has also been a number one twos comp.
Restokin, yeah. Or are you talking about actual?
Exactly, yeah. It's a hybrid. They have feral charge though, and they have enough in Resto to at least get like the things that make it harder to dispel your stuff. and
they're still tanky in boomkin form. They can
and
cast
they can go in
Cyclone
Moonkin
and Roots
form.
and shit,
yeah,
right?
So
sick.
exactly, like they can be offensive while still being like tanking rogues and shit. I mean, rogues are such a massive part of teams that being like bear form armor and still being able to like put out deeps is pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't remember Mage Priest in BC retailed that Puzz. I don't think so.
There's definitely some new comps that have sprung up that I don't see too many people talking about. A lot of rogue comps, a lot of double DPS rogue comps, like, say, Rogue Shadow Priest, Rogue Warlock. I mean, I've even seen people playing, like, Warlock Warrior, like, Palm Pyro Mage Warrior to decent success. So I do think that the meta is evolving and people are going to play different comps based on their partners, based on what class they're playing. But you're still going to see the comps everyone knows about just dominating. Mage Rogue, Warrior Druid, Druid Warlock, Druid Hunter. These comps are still going to be incredibly good. But I do think 2v2 especially, there is kind of the rock, paper, scissor element. Like I know playing Warrior Druid, playing against Hunter Druid feels very, very difficult. Both the Druid and Hunter are just constantly CCing me the whole game. I'm constantly just sitting in a trap. I can't get on the Hunter and I can't get on the Druid, and I'm just literally sitting in roots the whole game. Or, I mean, other double DPS comps are really good against Warrior Druid as well. Shadow Priest Rogue, just the amount of burst and CC they can throw down, at least in Season 1. Warlock Rogue, just the amount of control and silence that they have can just, shut down a healer.
Here's something interesting, though. Season 1 will be very different from Seasons 2 through 4. Because the access to resilience gear, right? You have to spend week after week after week to accumulate these points to get more resilience gear. So in the beginning, that actually changes the viability of certain comps, and I think that's why paladins were more dominant in the early season, because just being this tanky healer that's really mana efficient, that can just sit there and spam healing, is I don't know, for whatever reason that worked more with lower resilience, higher burst type deal. But they definitely and druids were weaker because druids want resilience. Classes that wanted the most resilience are obviously going to be weaker Season 1.
Wait, why is that? There's resilience in Season 1 though. Sorry, am I small brain?
Not as much though.
You basically every week that you have a rating in an arena team, you get certain points, right? And you can spend those points on arena gear. And so you're limited, even if you get a high rating really fast, you're still limited just by the weekly earnings before you can get pieces.
Yeah, but you can still get a couple hundred from the blue pieces from the reps. As Druid, the cool thing is you can get 2 pieces of each rep or each place, so you pretty much get 3 2-piece bonuses, and you get massive resilience. That's what happened to me on Endless.
Yeah, I mean, you'll unlock it more as the season goes, but even a couple hundred compared to later when people had 400 plus,
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Okay, so people can have more resilience with
first
more.
Week, the second week, the third week. Resilience will build, but classes that wanted to stack it the most, like druids and mages, will
casters.
So the burstier comps or something will maybe do better because their crits are going to be critting more.
About resilience, but also they don't have access to as much damage as they do until later. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
So
Season 1 will definitely be different.
If you wanted to zerg your way to the top on fresh, you'd probably play the most bursty, most high tempo oriented comp, right? Because people don't have the resistance to withstand that resilience.
Strongest because resilience lowered damage you took from crits, so burst and crit. They lowered the amount you lost to mana drains, and they lowered the amount you took from dots. So warlocks are strong even against a lot of resilience, but Shadow Priest Warlock will be a brutal comp Season 1, I imagine.
It will, and in 3s you're gonna see people just straight up playing triple DPS. Imagine Ellie Shaman, Palm Pyro Mage, Shadow Priest. I've played against that before, Season 1, and unless you just get some incredible peel to interrupt their combo, they're literally going to Elemental Mastery, Palm Pyro, Shadow Word Death someone with Bloodlust, and they're instantly dead.
Yeah. That sounds fun, though.
Gimmick burst comps. It was you kill someone right away and win, or they survive it and you lose. But those were annoying, definitely.
It's not fun to play against, dude.
To be honest, my favorite His double DPS like Rogue Mage is so fun in twos, man.
Oh, it's so much
Rogue
fun.
Lock is my favorite lock.
I loved Mage Rogue. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's so fun, man. Just
I think
all the
anything with
finesse.
the Rogue is so fun.
Yeah, Druid Rogue's pretty great. Rogues are...
And mages get invisibility in TBC, guys. They can open from invis in TBC. So like the mage rogue, they just get to jump on you and they just have control of the match like the whole time. Just CC like crazy. It's so much
They
fun.
struggled with Lock Druid, but since there won't be as much of that, I don't think Season 1.
What? You said Rogue Lock? How is that good? Rogue Lock?
Rogue Lock is broken.
What?
Well, I mean,
It is
It's
good
the same
for
thing. It's the CCs. It's the same thing. I run with Navic. We run Rogue Lock.
But
and
I'm pretty sure
game over.
Fear
It's PC the whole time.
shares some DR with Rogue stuff, though, right? No?
No.
Rogue Lock Lad Team?
I don't know.
No,
because we're able to feel. I'm able to fold DR Fears into a blind or after a blind and be fine.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think
singularity.
Oh, we have so much blankets because we have our Fell Hunter science. We have a DC Death Coil is used as a blanket science, and then the Rogue being able to clean up the science. It's
It just
so,
seems
so
weird how
damn
Rogue
good.
is like burst and single target damage, and the Warlock's like rotting the targets down. It feels like there would be a misalignment in terms of the damage synergies, but
There is, but that's why you can't dot that second target ever. It took me a while to learn that. You're literally focusing on one target. Where I'm opening with the Shadow Bolt, or I'm opening with Emblade, I'm opening with different
have a lot
things
of
than me spreading out my dots everywhere because you can't sometimes, you know.
I see. That's interesting.
Mage Rogue.
Rogue Lock, huh? That's pretty cool.
Oh.
All right,
Sure.
well, do you guys have anything you want to share about your melee and TBC? Take a deep breath here, try to clear your mind. Is there anything you're dying to get out to the people? Meanwhile, as they answer that, guys, here's your chance. You're part of the show here since we're towards the end of it. If you have any questions for these guys, throw them in the chat or tweet at us, and we'll
Singularity
try
asked
to.
really quick about the races for Arena TBC. Did you?
Yeah. Go for it. You chime in on it, man.
Yeah, I mean, okay, sure. I mean, I don't know if you want to like melee focus, but I definitely think for Horde side, your general rule of thumb is if you can be undead, with the exception of warriors. For human side, for Alliance side, human is really good, especially on a rogue, because perception is going to be a huge thing. Gnomes for classes that want escape artists like warriors, and dwarves for things like priests. Alliance definitely has more variance, whereas Horde side, it's like usually you should just be undead, with the exception of like warriors who should be orc and druids that have to be charmed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have a question. So you came from
Yeah.
Classic as a melee warrior. What's the many people are going to be doing are in your position, right? Besides rank 14, what's the biggest takeaways coming into TBC playing that same class? So if a warrior is watching this and they want to know the pros and cons, the biggest takeaways, downsides of a DPS warrior in both games.
Yeah, nice question. I would say for sure, if you love Warrior, know that in TBC you're going to be facing a lot more challenges than you were in Classic. It's going to be a lot harder to top meters. You know, it's going to be harder to find a raid spot. Like, you're going to have to put in a lot more effort if you want to even get close to topping meters. But, you know, if you love Warrior and Warrior's truly your class that you want to play, I would definitely say keep playing Warrior. I mean, we're talking about they definitely have applications in PvE. They definitely have applications in PvP, obviously. But if you played a Warrior in Classic because you just wanted to be the best class, you just wanted to be the highest DPS, like that's the only reason you picked Warrior, then just, you know, go ahead and reroll Hunter or Warlock. I think you have to ask yourself, like, do you truly like the class, or did you just like the class because it was the best? Because in TBC, it is not the best. In PvE, certainly.
Gotcha. Got a question from Wayhes Height. I made a Holy Paladin Classic. I want to continue to main heal / tank heal in TBC. What class should I be? Interesting.
Yeah, it's like Paladin, I'd say.
Yeah, same Paladin, man.
Yeah.
Paladins are really good.
Yep. Tips for transitioning from Classic to TBC as a Druid tank. Professions that are super viable? Question mark? Shrifty?
Yeah, I mean, your professions aren't going to be as big of a deal. There's some nice like pieces of gear that you can like self-craft as a leather worker. But as far as like money making goes, herbalism, engineering, so you can like just gather in swift light form, gather herbs, gather engineering clouds. The engineering helmet is really good for a druid, so I will personally be sticking with engineering. And there's also some fun, you know, engineering gets all the gimmicks, all the fun stuff. So, but
vulnerability belt
is like direly important. If you want to like min max enchanting to get the all stats on your rings, you know, that's helpful. But yeah,
Engineering helps a lot. I feel like it does because the same thing you just said. And there's something called nine vulnerability belt. So it'll
Yeah, I'm not sure,
that
Joe, as far as the phases on the helmet. He said Joe in the game says the helmet might not be available from the start. I guess we need more information on how they're going to phase the gear.
The helmets, there's 3 versions of the helmet. There's version, but they stocked as version 2, and then in 2.1, version 3 of the engineering helmets came out.
Oh, I thought there was
which is just a better version of it. Yeah, I can never find version 1, but they're always listed as V2, V3, and I can never find a V1. But V2 is usually out on launch, and then V3 comes out 2.1.
Okay, well, if it's out on launch, even the lower version is amazing.
It's really good.
Slot like for tanking, and for tanking as a feral, that will be your best in slot until maybe the Glad helm. But even then, I think I'd rather use the goggles.
Okay, looking at our tweets, got a couple of people tweeting at us. Someone's asking about warrior comps. What are your favorite warrior comps? Life is Moot for arena. Sorry.
For what, 2s, 3s, or they didn't say?
They didn't say, but I mean, yeah, just anything that sticks out. Maybe ones that you really enjoy the synergy of Moot.
Yeah. That's pretty simple. For 2s, it's for sure Druid Warrior. I mean, Druid Warrior is just like unkillable. Like, I mean, the Druid goes bear form, and then the enemy team is trying to kill 2 warriors. Like, the amount of CC you have, the amount of synergy you have with Druid Warrior, you can play so offensive, you can play so defensive based on the game situation. Like, Druid Warrior for 2s, for sure. That's the most meta comp, most fun comp. People really end up hating Druid Warrior in 2s a lot. You know, they say it's brainless. Some people joke about, Druid Warrior mirror matchup.
It's a good gold standard though, Moot, right? Because if you can't beat Druid Warrior, then you probably aren't going to have a super successful 2s comp.
Yeah, because it's certainly a very, very popular comp. And then in 3s, for sure, the best warrior comp that I've seen is Warlock Warrior Druid. It's just taking Druid Warrior and adding a Warlock, which is kind of adding, dots to your burst. You can dot up a target and MS it. You can outlast, like, any team. Like, your Druid has Innervate. You're just the amount of sustain and burst damage and survivability just makes that comp ridiculous. Right now in 3s, I play a Hunter Warrior Druid, and that's pretty similar to Warlock Warrior Druid. I've also played Holy Pally Ellie Shaman Warrior, and we've been talking about how Shamans and Paladins are not that great in Arena, but that was actually a comp that actually had some pretty surprisingly good synergy between, Bloodlust and Wind Fury combined with Elemental Mastery and my MS being to burst someone down. And then in addition, the Holy Pally also had Bop for the Shaman. A lot of, weaknesses about Shaman is you just see a Shaman, you can just burst the Shaman, you can focus the Shaman, you can CC the Shaman, but that dynamic does change a bit with Bop. So yeah, I mean, most meta comp 3s is Warrior, Warlock, Druid. You can play Warrior, Hunter, Druid.
Try a Warrior, Rogue, Druid.
No, I haven't tried that, but I'm sure that would work too. I just think it's slightly worse because it's 2 melees. So maybe if you want to go the 2 melee route, like you really want Wind Fury, perhaps, like maybe you want Warrior, Enhance, Druid. Maybe you could make that work.
Hell yeah, that's a great answer, man. That's a pretty comprehensive-ass answer right there. Guys, final questions. Throw them in the chat right now. In that meantime, type something in the chat if you're a conscious human being right now. If we have your attention just for one moment here, I would really appreciate it. Type something. Type something to show us you're here. We'd really appreciate it. Gotta ask you guys a favor, chat. If you could please follow these guys. Swifty refuses to make a Twitch. So he's hopeless, man. Even if he has to sell him, even if he had whatever, Twitter, whatever he has, but he is selfless. He cares not about any kind of growth or anything like that. But Crix and Life is Moot. These guys are TBC big brains. They're some of your subject matter experts here, and they're going to continue making content as we move into TBC Classic. And they were kind enough. I mean, Crix is here with me, putting up with my dumb ass every week. But Life is Moot, man. This guy as you can clearly tell, like massive brain, and we're just so thankful he's here. So make it worth their time by following him. We'd really appreciate it if you have a second, guys. Just Swifty, last chance. You want to plug the OnlyFans, man? I'll throw it in here.
You know, I'll keep that one private.
Okay. Oh man, it's been a blast, guys. I really enjoy doing these, and I hope we can collab more on more stuff. Moving forward, as we gotta stick together. Once they announce this damn thing, man, it's gonna be everybody and their mama's gonna be doing TBC stuff. So this is our day one folks right here watching as we speak right now. We hit over 700 today, so I'd love to see that. Life is moot. You have any words for the people, man? Like, where can the people? Maybe there's other places they can find. Do you have anything you want to tell the people?
All I can say, man, is thank you so much for the opportunity talking with you absolute legends, Kargoz, Crix, and Swifty. Like, I mean, I saw this show. I really wanted to be a part of it, and I thought I had some good, thoughts to say about the topics on the show, and I just really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Like, thanks for being here, everyone. This was fucking dope, seriously.
Yeah, man. And guys, I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here at all, Boot, but you are going hard on TBC. Is my impression of it, right? And you want to make content, and you want to, take it a little more seriously and stuff. So, like, it's that type of situation, guys. Support this man, please. Would really appreciate it. But yeah. All right, fellas. That's it for the Dark Portal, episode 4. Hope you learned something. Hope you had a little fun here in your weekly TBC waiting room. We'll catch you next week, next Monday, per usual. Going hard. Got the merch. I'm gonna send Crick some. We might
big episode next week, baby.
What? Tease him, Crix. Tease him.
It's range time.
Range time. Okay.
What people really care about? Range, baby. Who's pumping? The carriers of the raid. Get on my back.
The range. He's very enthusiastic. This last Airbender.
It's the carrier.
This last Airbender. Okay, so we are going to host somebody. We are going to host my man. Gonna host my man. Should we host? We should host Jamin. Let's host Jamin. Say hi to Jamin for me, guys. Take care. We'll see you next week. Peace out.